Blank check with Griffin and David. Blank check with Griffin and David. Don't know what to say or to expect. All you need to know is that the name of the show is Blank Check.
I gave them nothing.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what people think. You know what you podcast.
It's good.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name's Griffin Newman.
It's a great line. David Sims.
David doubted me, but I pulled through.
I didn't doubt it. I just wanted to know. And I know. Now I know.
Now we know, and that's why we are hashtag the two friends.
We are hashtag Stoike Musique.
Yeah. Hashtag the two Stoike Music.
Yes.
And
no, Ben is standing man, actually, when you think about it.
Producer Ben?
Yeah.
The Ben-ducer?
Sure, right at the start.
Purdue Ben? Poet laureate, the peeper, the tiebreaker?
Thank you. Don't make him question.
Birthday Benny? The fuckmaster?
Yep.
Not Professor Crispy?
No.
He is our finest film critic?
I mean, that's what you guys say.
He's a fart detective. He's a meat lover. He's a close personal friend of Dan Lewis.
I mean, I can't imagine that this is anyone's first episode is Bridge of Spies.
Should be. Should be their first and only.
That's what you're suggesting people
No.
pick it up and drop it with this one?
Doesn't
Let's
matter.
not suggest that.
Doesn't matter. You know what you did. You know what you podcast. Producer Ben, of course, has graduated certain titles over the course of different research. Kylo Ben, producer Ben Kenobi, Ben's 8, Ben 901, Save Anything, and Daily Ben's with $1.
No one can hear that, but okay, great. Welcome to Blank Check with Griffin and David.
That's
and
us.
Standing Man Ben Hosley.
Yes.
Hello.
This is Pod Me If You Cast.
It is indeed a mini-series about the films of Steven Spielberg, the DreamWorks years.
Now, did DreamWorks have anything to do with this one? I guess they were a production company on this one.
This was the tail end, kind of. This is the final proper DreamWorks movie. We're kind of flubbing it a little bit by including BFG, but it would be weird to exclude it when it's the most recent film.
Maybe we shouldn't include it. I mean, it's completely forgettable.
This is part of when DreamWorks restructured as a production company with financing from Rylance, which was an Indian company. And Disney made a deal to distribute these films through Touchstone, which used to be their sort of adult imprint.
Mm-hmm.
For Miramax was their indie imprint, and Touchstone was for your Pretty Womans. You know,
Yes, of course, yes. Your Sixth Senses.
Right, your PG-13 or R-rated films. And at a certain point, once Disney became more franchise-based, they didn't really want to make movies like that because they had limited potential in relation to movies that can make $4 billion.
Fucking Disney, man.
So they make this deal. They go, DreamWorks will just be Touchstone.
Yeah.
We'll let DreamWorks work autonomously, make whatever they want with funding
$40
from
million
Rylance,
movies, yeah.
and Touchstone will be distributing those. And this is the last film as part of that deal. BFG was a Disney proper
movie.
It was straight up Disney because it was a kids movie.
Yeah.
And now DreamWorks essentially doesn't exist. Going forward, the Steven Spielberg movies are like Amblin movies now.
So DreamWorks is just gone? I mean, obviously DreamWorks Animation exists.
I was looking into it. It's kind of weird because there's stuff like Office Christmas Party, which was released recently, was a DreamWorks movie. But I think some of those are like DreamWorks is kind of... Yeah. DreamWorks is a small production company, but Spielberg's productions are now Amblin movies over DreamWorks
taken
movies.
over, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, boy, some of the Amblin movies coming up. No.
Yeah.
No, I don't like them.
But they're Amblin movies.
Listen to this.
A Dog's
listen
Purpose,
to the Amblin slate,
which is coming out.
We just had We had Girl on the Train and Office Christmas Party last year.
Sure.
Not great.
But those, I think, were films that were grandfathered in from the DreamWorks years. I think were developed as DreamWorks movies. Whatever.
Doesn't matter.
Sure.
I don't know why you're fucking nitpicking.
I'm just trying to...
Then Dog's Purpose. Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Ghost in the Shell looks kind of cool. But
Yeah.
I mean, they fucked up.
Well, and people are going to be up in
They
arms.
fucked up.
People are going to be up in arms when 15 months from now they leak the video of Scarlett Johansson drowning.
All right.
They're trying to push her into the pool and she's shaking.
Ready Player One in 2018.
Yeah, which
that's
is scary.
scheduled to come out in March?
Yeah.
What is Steven Spielberg
Hey,
doing?
look, blockbusters come out year-round now.
And then Bumblebee,
Oh, right.
the Transformers spinoff,
damn it.
Bumblebee.
God damn it.
Does anyone in the world care about Bumblebee?
I-
Or do they just think that we care?
I'll say this. I probably care about Bumblebee more than most.
And how much do you care about Bumblebee?
A good amount. I have less...
How can you care about Bumblebee?
I have less than zero interest in seeing a Bumblebee movie.
Bumblebee is
what is Bumblebee?
He's the
Bumblebee's a nice
Transformer.
friend.
He's the yellow Transformer who can't talk, so he only, he speaks in like clips from the radio.
He's Shia's first car. He's a boy's best friend, and
he's got a
loses his
fucking
voice box, so
creepy
he speaks.
Transformer face. He's not nice.
Yeah, you can't make a movie about him.
No.
And
You
I like
cannot.
him. He's one of my good friends. He's not one of my two friends, though.
Sure. No.
Yeah, that's a dispiriting slate.
Yeah, it is.
And this miniseries has sort of been about Steven Spielberg at a weird crossroads as the film industry is changing dramatically and
Right.
rapidly, and at a time where some could argue the full effect of what Spielberg and Lucas created in the 70s has now completely overtaken the industry.
Sure.
Spielberg is sort of fighting this last stand to try to make adult dramas.
Sure.
And make
Adult
films.
dramas for significant budgets. Obviously,
Yes.
you got your indie dramas, your smaller budget
He's trying to make
dramas.
fucking
but he's-
60 million basement movies.
This is a $40 million movie.
Really?
Yeah.
That's very impressive.
Pretty good, right?
Yeah.
They built Berlin.
Yeah.
Can you build Berlin? Huh?
I cannot.
No.
And even
Well, stop
they
saying
built a
you can.
wall. I know. I
They
keep
built a
telling
wall.
everyone
They
I
built the
can.
damn wall.
I'm just trying to get laid. I keep telling people I can build Berlin.
Those girls who are hot for Berlin
Yes.
replicas, not the real
Sure.
Berlin.
There's this weird thing in the period of movies that we're watching. Schindler's List is this kind of pivot point that he can't go back from. Once he becomes an adult, he can't try to pretend that he's just a kid anymore, right?
Uh-huh.
And Lost World is a misstep because of that. Amistad, he paints with too broad a brush. Aside from the fact that he shouldn't have been making that material, he tries to filter through the traditional Spielberg-y things, right?
Yeah.
And when he's making these genre films, he's making these, I keep on using the same word, but haunted, morally gray genre films like AI, like Catch Me If You Can, like Minority Report,
Sure.
like War of the Worlds, to varying levels of success. And he missteps when he does, a Crystal Skull, a War Horse. He does something that's more conventionally Spielberg, and he tries to make it simpler and more
It's
straightforward.
true.
Ready Player One's a little scary to me.
I have no idea how that's going to turn
I
out.
don't either. It's a big question mark.
We'll give that one some time. That
Look.
one's got a whole year to come out.
BFG also is a misstep for similar reasons. We'll cover that next week.
BFG, like Warhorse, like you're saying, BFG is the kind of movie where you're like, oh, yeah, I could see Steven Spielberg making this in 1991.
And
it
you
just
imagine it would be great, and you watch it now, and it's like,
it just seems beyond him.
That's the
beyond
problem.
his interest.
Right.
Well, we'll get to BFG next week.
but
We'll get to BFG.
those are the movies where it feels like him trying to make a quote unquote Spielberg movie rather than making what he
We'll get to it
is
next week.
fascinating. We'll get to it next week. This movie is, to me, in a certain way, the apex of what he's been evolving towards in his career. Because of all these adult dramas, it's the one that is the most sort of classical, the most focused, the least showy.
It's not showing. That's true. It's less showy than like Munich.
Yeah, and is just like every inch a masterpiece.
Agreed, man.
I mean, you don't have set pieces. It's similar to Lincoln, but you're not dealing with a towering historical figure.
Yeah.
And it comes out. It makes $80 million. Opens kind of small, but ends up repeating pretty well. And people go, oh, pretty good box office return. Does well overseas. Gets nominated for Best Picture. Wins Best Supporting Actor. But I feel like gets pegged with like, oh, it's one of those.
Definitely gets pegged with, and you know what doesn't help? Tom Hanks being in it.
Sure.
It just definitely gets pegged with, it's a Spielberg dad movie. It's about history.
Oh, it's him and
I don't
Hanks.
know.
They both
Fine.
love war shit.
3 stars. Yeah, exactly.
Right. I'm
Like,
sure it's fine. I'm sure
it's
fine
some
for
like
what it is.
side poop of the Pacific.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, you know what does help this movie?
What?
Tom Hanks being in it when you're actually watching it.
Of course.
Because Jesus Christ, what a fucking performance. And what a movie that can only work if you have someone who is that comfortable and in control as a movie star.
Standing Man.
Start your music.
Yeah, what's up?
Oh, God.
Hey, Ben.
Yeah.
You like that Bridge of Spies?
I love me some Bridge of Spies.
Is that his fucking nickname? Is it Standing Ben?
Standing Ben. That's what it is. That's what it is. Standing Ben.
I think it's Standing Ben, right? Because it's not the Ben-friendly giant.
It's a bit. You would need another
The Ben FG.
element to that acronym.
Right. And we already said it's not Catch Me If You Ben. It's not Gigolo Ben.
No.
No, it's not the Lost Ben. Jurassic
Haas.
Juicer.
Jurassic Oz, though.
think
The
it's
Lost,
Standing Ben,
the Lost Haas Jurassic. Yeah, saving. I do still Private Ryan. Sergeant Ryben from. I really think that character just popped so hard in Saving
Sure.
Private Ryan.
Sure.
Ryben and he's just, like, there's a lot of things you don't know about him, such as that he is from Brooklyn, that he's a Brooklyn guy.
Wait, the Ed Burns character's from Brooklyn?
The Ed Burns character in Saving Private Ryan is this is in, like, the background of the character.
Okay,
you know how they write, like, Bibles for the characters, stuff you don't know?
This is what I'm asking you. Is this one of those bullshit fan theories like the Pixar movies take place in the same universe? Because I don't think that's supported by the text of the film.
What it is Boo went into the past and became an old witch lady. And then that old witch lady gave birth to Private Ryan, whatever, in Brooklyn. Brave takes place in Brooklyn.
Hey, you know what I love?
I just recently found out that the whole point of the whole idea of the Pixar theory is that
Boo's the witch from
is
Brave.
the witch in Brave, and she, like, loops back around, and that the good dinosaur explains why monsters exist and, like, stuff like that.
Yeah, you know what I love? When, like, 6 times a year, people who I kind of know
are like, hey, man, found this cool theory.
Yo, any thoughts on this?
Look, here's my problem with the Pixar theory. Those Pixar assholes are not helping by, like, putting a little postcard of the Pizza Planet or whatever in the background of, Monsters University or what. I don't, like, no, stop it.
I like that stuff, but it's fucking Easter egg shit. It's like putting E.T. in the Phantom Menace.
I mean, that's fine. I guess you're right.
The problem is that people want to read that as, like, some canonical thing. Like,
Yes.
it's the fucking ending of Split.
Look, these people are bored, I
Yeah.
guess is the gentlest way to put it.
Well, and to be fair, it makes a lot of sense because there's nothing else to focus on in the world at large right now. That's why we're going to spend 2 hours talking about Bridge of Spies. But I'll say this. I love this movie. I saw it twice when it came out. I think it was my number 3 of last year. We both gave it a lot of blanky nominations.
5, I think. Yeah.
It's in the upper echelon of my Spielberg period, not just for this miniseries.
Fair.
Period. Full stop. For me, watching this movie last night, and reminder, we're recording this in January, so who knows, maybe we will have gone through
seriously.
4 impeachments by the time this episode drops.
Hey, man, impeach him 3 ways from Sunday for all I care.
Right. We make it all the way down to Secretary of Agriculture is now president.
That's fine. That guy, that's the guy who's from Montana. I'm sure he's okay. He's probably not that great.
No, he's a nightmare. He doesn't believe in global warming.
Oh, God. We're doomed.
We are.
Watching this movie in theaters.
Yeah.
There were moments that I found emotional, but they were more sort of like golden glow Spielberg emotional, where you just kind of got like a twinkle in your eye and a smile on your face. You go like, oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Watching this last night, I almost broke down crying a couple times.
It's so good.
And it wasn't because, of a We Bought a Zoo type thing where I was recently dumped and I'm at a hair trigger. I'm feeling fairly psychologically balanced these days.
Well, sure.
But watching this movie and seeing a film that's just about the decency of an ordinary American who prioritizes his basic humanity and his sense of empathy for others above all else, and also someone who just takes the responsibility of their job very seriously,
right,
and wants to do a good job and use their power for good, it like fucking destroyed me last night.
Yeah.
It both gave me a lot of hope and inspiration, and then immediately the movie ended, and I went and checked Twitter, and I felt terrible.
Okay, enough about the real world, which is bad.
Bridge of Spies.
Bridge o' Spies.
Which is great.
This was at the New York Film Festival, and I skipped the screening because I think it was on like a Saturday at 10 a.m. and it was just, the movie is coming out in a couple weeks. And
let's say this too, both the trailer and the poster for this movie sucked.
Terrible trailer.
Like horrifically
one of those
bad.
trailers that's obviously worried you're not going to think it's an exciting movie, so they kind of try and make it look like this sort of like, corny thriller.
They sort of cut it like it was Munich.
It's got a bridge in the name. Put a bridge on the poster. That's just common sense.
No, indeed. No bridges on the poster. The poster was like, well, there's 2 posters, but the one they had a lot of was Hank's floating head,
yes,
2 flags, which,
right.
Look, try a little harder, guys. That's not a great poster.
Well, also,
the other one with the more like 60s kind of like red and white and black, like cartoony imagery around him was a little better. You know that one I mean?
A little better.
A little better, a little more, a little popped a little more.
Right, but it's like a big floating head poster where his head is like 90% of the poster, and then you have the
floating head posters. And I get like, look, you hand me Bridge of Spies, I might also be like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? This is not a posterable movie.
Okay, this is where I disagree with you, and this is one of only 2 serious complaints I have about the movie, and it's not even a complaint towards the movie, it's a complaint towards the marketing department.
Okay, fine. What is it?
The movie hands you a fucking poster. The poster should have been the fucking painting that Abel gives him with the text over that.
Hell yeah. That's a great call. No,
I'm
that's
not
so
insane.
good. I like that.
It should have been the painting, which would have just looked like a nice fucking Struzanny, like, here's a painting of Tom Cruise looking like a
If the poster
hero.
for Bridge of Spies was literally just an oil painting of Tom Hanks,
And instead of Steven Spielberg film, Bridge of Spies.
people would have lost their minds laughing at that. That would have been hilarious.
And then when they went to see the movie, they would have,
No, they would
cried.
not have seen the movie, though. They would have been like, what's this oil painting
I'll fight
Hanks?
this tooth and nail. It's like the thing when the Alamo Draft House here in Brooklyn opened, the first week they served the chef special if you went to see Moonlight.
Uh-huh.
And the whole thing was like, you're seeing Moonlight for the first
Right,
time.
you eat that.
You're eating this dish. You don't know what it is. And then by the time the chef special is introduced in the movie, people just go like, oh my God, now it means
That is
so
an
much.
interesting way of arguing in favor of having the poster of Bridge of Spies be an oil painting of Tom Hanks. This is like the time me, you, and Bobby were looking at Oscar posters,
Yes.
and then it was just Ellen DeGeneres' face.
Okay, but is the poster that they ended up going with that different from an oil painting of Tom Hanks' face? It's just a shitty Photoshop floating head.
I don't disagree that the poster is bad.
And they're similar images, except the painted one's nicer and has thematic meaning.
Anyway, let's move on.
Oil painting poster. Someone, please, Photoshop.
No, it should have been Mark Rylance literally at an easel painting the painting. And so it's called like Bridge of Spies, but the picture is just Mark Rylance in painter's clothes. And he's like putting the finishing touches on Tom Hanks's face
Yeah, I mean, I'd love
in
that.
prison.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, what's going on in this movie? I want to see this movie.
Let's point out just before we get into it in the meat of the film, Mark Rylance, obviously one of the best living actors.
He won an Academy Award.
For this performance, it was a surprising win, an upset. People thought Sly Stallone
It's
gonna
interesting
walk
because
away
I
with
feel
it.
like 2 months before the Oscars, 3 months before the Oscars, Rylance was the absolute favorite, and he
Right.
won a lot of critics' awards.
Creed was screened late, and the
Creed-
second it was
Creed
screened,
came in late, was not campaigned very well.
Yes.
by its studio.
Yeah, because it should have gotten like 6 nominations.
Exactly. But then Creed comes in late, Sly Stallone, and everyone's like, oh, like he's gonna win because this is his only shot.
They built such a strong narrative around him, and
it
then
just made sense.
what everyone ignored was like, oh, Rylance gave a perfect performance.
Rylance gave a perfect performance. Sly Stallone's reputation in Hollywood is mixed.
Yes.
And I think both those things combined it was very surprising.
On the night, it
Rylance
was very
won.
surprising.
Very surprising.
But he had been the front runner
And it was like
before
right
Stallone.
at the start of the show because I think it might have been the first Oscar
It wasn't.
announced.
No, because Best Supporting Actress was.
They do one of the supportings first often.
It was like right in the middle.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. That's a thing I always when people talk about like Oscar snubs and why they happened. I think the same thing unites why Stallone lost by upset and why Eddie Murphy lost by upset, which is nominations happen by your branch. Actors nominate actors, but then the wins, everyone in every branch votes for everything.
Right.
Right. So a sound mixer doesn't get to nominate actors, but they do get to vote on actors.
Yeah.
And so actors, I think, can focus more on the performance. But then when you get into the entire voting body, they go like, okay, I'm a set decorator,
Right.
and Eddie Murphy was an asshole to me.
Right.
Like the guys like Stallone and Murphy who are known for being temperamental at best, you know,
Hey, man.
and destructive and obstructive at worst.
Eddie Murphy should have won that Oscar.
Yeah, he should have. But Alan Arkin also is a really cool winner.
I disagree. That he'd be like last on my list.
Oh, I think that's a great fucking performance. I think it's a great performance. I think he's a great actor. I love that he has an Oscar. Or go fuck yourself. Okay, Bridge of Spies.
Bridge of Spies. So yeah, I mean, I skipped the New York Film Festival screening, and then everyone coming out of it was like, it's fine. I don't know, fine. You know,
It's handsome.
Very fine.
People use those backhanded compliments like it's well made.
Yeah. And so I was kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm sure I'll like it, but I'm sure it's like
It's a broccoli movie.
yeah, maybe like a 4 out of 5, right? Like, you know, a very good, handsomely mounted Spielberg production that teaches me a little bit about the world.
See, I went into it assuming even that it would be like a 3.
Uh-huh.
You know, like a gentleman's 3, and I'd be like, it's fine.
But, you know, I had really liked Lincoln. It's weird, though.
Right.
Yeah, we were not hyped. And, like, it was one of those things where at the beginning of the year, you make your Oscars you sort of look at the field, and you're like, what's an Oscar frontrunner? 10 years ago, you would have seen Bridge of Spies and been like, bingo, this one.
Yes.
At this point, people are kind of like, well, you know, nah, I don't know. It'll do fine.
Well, and I'll say, a lot of the crew that worked on the television series Vanille, HBO's Vanille,
Vinyl. He's referring to.
Well, I mean, sure, you would pronounce it like that.
Sure.
Worked on Bridge of Spies. Like when our season ended, they went over to Bridge of Spies, or it was after the pilot rather.
Mm-hmm.
Between the pilot and when we went to series. And I kept on asking people in the crew, like, hey, you have something lined up after this? And all of them were like, I'm working on a new Spielberg movie. The script's fucking incredible. So I kept on hearing from people like, this script's amazing.
Sure.
Then the trailer came out. It looked really fucking bland.
Yeah.
The poster was even blander. And the New York's film festival shit was just like kind of like dismissive. Like, yeah, no, it's Spielberg. I mean, it's fine.
The script is by Matt Sharman, who is a fantastic playwright.
Mm-hmm.
It was embellished on by the Coen Brothers, although
I took a pass.
I've been told that all their work is in the negotiation scenes. Like that's where it all is. All the, like the scene with the with the fake family.
Hanks's opening scene kind of feels Coen-y to me.
Hanks's opening scene. Oh, where he's doing the 1-1-1.
Yes.
Maybe, I don't know, but like. I don't know. I had read in multiple reports like that it's all the just the sort of the talking scenes right in the middle there. The Coen's just added, some Coen-y humor.
Sure.
And sort of like their weird sort of circular, interesting way of doing dialogue.
The circular dialogue, and another thing that feels very Coen-y to me, and maybe this was added by Sharman. I don't know.
I mean, I'm just saying. I feel like people kind of gave Sharman short shrift because they saw the Coen Brothers names on it and they were like, oh, they must have made it good. I don't think so. I think everyone loved the Sharman script.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Impossible to know who did what.
Sure.
But there's a thing that feels very Coen-y in the movie to me, which is this movie uses the repetition of certain phrases to its advantage.
Yes.
It establishes a language of just like this phrase means that, so when it's repeated, it has extra meaning, or when it's subverted, it has extra meaning.
Classic Coen.
And it does it with like 4 different phrases over the course of the movie, and all of them have.
Give me the phrases.
The phrases are.
Yes.
Let me see if I can remember all 4 of them. Would it help?
Would it help?
The use of your guy, my guy, not my guy.
Yep.
I have a cold. I just want to go home, get into bed.
Mm-hmm.
And the 4th one is fuck. Oh, it's the how many things.
The 1-1-1.
Right.
One thing happened here. One.
Yes.
And then sometimes he's like 1 for 2. Then he's like, no, it's 1 for 1.
The idea of negotiating things.
Right.
Yes. And even to a lesser degree, I think the boss line is maybe repeated more than once.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
He may not always be right, but he's always the boss. So you and I both see this movie, I think, with very low expectations. And or middling expectations, and both come out of it. We're recording the podcast at that time, and we like see each other before recording. We go like, we're both just staring at each other, going like, "That's a fucking masterpiece. Why isn't anyone else talking about it?" I know.
This? Well, yeah, I mean, I saw it with my brother. Just like maybe I think the day it came out, or certainly the weekend it came out, just like at an empty screening at like Court Street Regal. You know, just like nobody there. We just sat there quietly, and we walked out. That was the fucking greatest! What the hell is going on?
Like one of our best living filmmakers
stupid pills?
Made one of his best films ever.
It's just like everyone's just like,
yeah.
Like what were we even excited about?
I mean, fucking The Revenant like ran laps around this movie in terms of box office, Oscars, and critical reception.
Everyone was jerking off The Revenant,
right?
Which is objectively a poopy movie.
A shit movie.
That I caught 30 minutes of on HBO the other day, and it was just a poop.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't like Bridge of Spies where you turn it on and you're like, oh, I'm so gripped.
Yeah.
By the complicated issues being fleshed out here.
And here's the thing.
Through performance.
I disagree,
and photography.
I'm sorry to say I disagree. I like The Revenant because I believe that nothing matters, and I'm a nihilist.
So you like it because the movie doesn't matter and it's not about anything.
Yeah, it's just about nothing. It's just about pain and cold.
Yeah.
And wet.
To me, The Revenant is just don't go over there.
Yeah.
Do you like live in a town that has like toilets and a store?
To me, The Revenant's like
nicer.
Don't make this movie.
That's the things, David.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know when's The Revenant set? Like the 19th century, right? Like, I don't know, sometime in the 19th century.
Yeah.
Like, what? It's cold. Why? It's fucking cold over there. Just chill out, man.
But to me, not to make it emblematic too much, it was just like, okay, Revenant is like the most movie, right?
Sure.
It's like so much fucking movie, and it's so showy, and it's in your face, and it looks great, and there was so much narrative about how difficult it was to make.
Yeah,
and oh my God, the experience, you got to see on big screen, this and that.
Leo's finally going to get his Oscar. That was a huge part of it.
And
you
Bridge
got
of
to see
Spies-
Leo's performance that's going to get him his Oscar.
Bridge of Spies just kind of quietly sits back.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's got this very steady, very delicate hand, but it's like a movie where, like, there's not a single unmotivated camera movement. There's not a line wasted. Every performance is note perfect, you know, from the top to the bottom. I think, like, there is a real problem today about movies like that kind of being dismissed. I feel like television that functions on that level gets appreciated, you know?
Mhm.
People lean into something like Westworld and go like, oh, what do you read into that performance and this line and that shot?
Well, I
And
think
movies-
this is a problem in general. Right
I
now.
agree. And movies have to be fucking everything in your face all the time to work.
Yeah.
And when it's a good movie that's everything in your face all the time, great. Give it the attention. Give Mad Max the credit it deserves.
Give The Big Short its attention, I suppose.
Yeah.
Trying to think of movies of that year.
I feel like that's in between the 2 points we're talking
Yeah, I
about.
agree.
Right? If Bridge of Spies is 1 point,
Indeed.
and The Revenant's the other point, Big Short's right in the middle for me.
Yeah.
But it feels like movies like this that are just sort of classical, unfussy, focused, intelligent, thoughtful,
Mm-hmm.
tend to just get brushed under of like, I'll watch that at home.
Bridge of Spies.
Yeah, I saw it, AMC 25. It was a fairly crowded screening. I think it was
Sure.
during the first weekend. But it was a thing where I was like, I just got to check this on my list. I'm thorough with seeing Oscar movies. I'm going to see it. I saw it in a double feature. I like snuck into it afterwards. I was not excited about it.
What did you see beforehand?
I can't even remember, but I know that was the main attraction for me.
Whatever you were seeing beforehand.
I was like, I'll see that, and then maybe I'll throw in Bridge of Spies afterwards if I'm feeling up to it. And I saw that, and I was like, oh, good movie. And I saw Bridge of Spies, and will never remember what the other movie was.
Was it
then.
Steve Jobs?
No.
Was it? I'm trying to see. I'm looking at like movies that were sort of like relative. Was it Room? No.
No.
Can't even. You wouldn't want to do Room job. I mean,
No.
Room
No.
Bridge.
And I saw Room with Romley.
God, talk about a movie.
Or I saw Rom with Roomley.
Was it Pan? Was it the great movie Pan?
Yes, it was Pan.
All right. Bridge O Spies.
Okay, so the movie opens with a bravura sequence. 10 minutes.
It's a great sequence.
First 7 minutes are practically dialogue free.
For sure.
A few kind of overheard muttered lines.
No,
right?
it's dialogue.
Um,
Rudolf Abel,
yes,
played by Mark Rylance.
right. The
who's
film,
great,
yes,
and is now Spielberg's muse. Like, right? Like, this is Spielberg's new muse.
he is
'Cause he's
doing,
in the BFG. He's in Ready Player One.
and he's the Pope movie that
And he's
Spielberg's
in-
about to start making.
Is Spielberg making that?
Yes,
I thought Scorsese was making that.
no.
Okay.
Spielberg's making a movie about the Pope going missing.
Right, the one with Oscar Isaac. No, it's not the Pope going missing. It's all about some kid who gets, like, adopted by the Vatican or something. I don't fucking know. I can look it
Mark
up.
Rylance plays the grown-up version of that kid, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I think Mark Rylance plays the Pope.
Is this like a kid pope kind of
I
situation?
don't want this. Okay,
Look, we had a young Pope, but a kid Pope?
we're getting the details.
No,
of this
I want
movie
to know.
mixed up.
Now we have to know. Now we have to know, goddammit. It's called The Kidnapping of Edgardo Mortara.
Okay.
It's about a young Jewish boy in Bologna, Italy, who is taken to be raised as a Christian, and it becomes part of a larger battle about the papacy. And Mark Rylance, indeed, is playing Pius IX, Pope Pius IX.
Okay.
I think, well, Oscar Isaac is the only other person who's in it. Maybe he plays the kid. I don't
Okay.
know.
I know they're still looking for the kid. I went to a diner the other day and they had a flyer about looking for kids to star in a new Amblin Spielberg movie. There's an exhaustive search for the kid.
Cool.
That's an exciting project to me. I think Kushner's writing that, right?
Yeah, it's like the third in Spielberg's scratchy chin Kushner movies, the Hindu Kush.
That Hindu Kush.
Yeah.
Take another hit of that dank Kush.
Yep.
But yeah, he's working with Rylance for the foreseeable future. I mean, even like the part.
He loves Ryan. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like Spielberg discovered, this underrated 3-time Tony-winning like legend of British stage, Mark Rylance. He was like, "Yeah, this guy's got the goods. Maybe I should throw him in a few of my movies."
Yeah, but it was weird that people didn't put him in movies forever. You know?
I mean,
He did a couple.
he was a very busy stage actor. I think.
And didn't he run a theater
Yes,
company?
he ran the
Yes.
Shakespeare Globe.
Right.
And he ran that company. He did all kinds of weird things there. Like he would do all male productions, all female productions. Like he liked to fuck around with the weird limited format of the Shakespeare Globe.
He also did a movie called Intimacy, in which,
He is Ding Dong.
and that's why he's one of our best living actors. He showed his ding dong a bunch.
Indeed, he did. I've
Yeah.
seen that movie. It's not bad. That was
Talking
very
his
shocking.
dick?
Standing dick.
It was a very shocking
Stocha
movie in Britain when it
Dick
came out.
Jack,
There was a lot of fuss about it in Britain when it came
It's
out.
pretty graphic and frank.
It's quite graphic. But in like it's one of those movies. It's such a British movie where it's like it's about like an affair and you see a bunch of dick and boobs and stuff,
Right.
and then but it's really just about like a couple of depressed people who don't know what to do with themselves. Like it doesn't have like a lot of plot.
But Spielberg cast him in this. He wins the Oscar, right? He'd wanted to make BFG for a long time. The idea was always for it to be a Robin Williams film.
Sure.
He was waiting for the technology to catch up.
Right.
Robin
Technology
Williams
catches
dies,
up.
And Robin Williams dies, and he has the idea like, oh, this guy I just worked with, he could play the BFG.
Right.
Ready Player One, that role was earmarked. It's a Willy Wonka type role, the man who creates this video game world.
Uh-huh.
He had earmarked it for Gene Wilder.
Sure.
And was aggressively talking Gene Wilder.
Jesus, don't have Spielberg interested in you. It's a curse.
Yep. Yeah.
Seriously.
Spielberg, his second choice for the role was Fidel Castro.
Are you serious?
No.
Oh, I get it. I'll believe anything.
His third choice for the role was Richard Spencer, who got off easy with only a punch.
God, that guy.
You
know what I just found out? That guy has like 40,000 followers on Twitter.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be the leader of some scary movement?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I mean, the kid from Glee has 1 million followers.
Yeah, Jesus. Like,
What's that kid's
and when he
name, the
says
one in
the
the-
kid from Glee, he just means one of the kids from Glee, like the ninth kid from Glee. He doesn't even mean the main one who
It's like a Liam Michelle.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm talking Kevin McHale or whatever his name is.
It's definitely something.
Yeah.
It's not
He
Kevin
played
McHale.
Artie.
Kevin McHale was the power forward for the Boston
Okay,
Celtics
whatever
in
his
the
name
80s.
is. But he had desperately wanted to pull Gene Wilder out of retirement, and when
It
Gene
is
Wilder,
Kevin McHale. That's so
Oh,
weird
hell,
that that's
I
his
nailed it.
name.
it just says a lot that like Gene Wilder can't do it. Okay,
Rylance.
Rylance.
I mean,
And
Rylance
then-
is a chameleon.
yes.
He
And
can
then
do a lot of stuff.
I think this Pope movie he mostly did because he thought it was a good fit for Rylance. That became his next project.
Damn.
I
We're
like
gonna get
this
sick of
collaboration.
Rylance. I mean, I love Rylance. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So Abel, Rylance, great. As Ben noted, we should get through the first
Yes,
half of this movie
right.
quicker.
Because this movie is kind of
Bifurcated.
yes.
A little bit.
Yes.
I mean, that the essential story is,
Yeah.
it's sort of like one thing happened, and then after a little while, another thing happened.
But it's almost like a 6-act movie because it's like the first hour of the movie has 3 acts and feels like it resolves itself, and then another movie happens.
Yep, that's
it's like a diptych.
that's accurate.
That movie has 3 acts, and then the end of the movie kind of unifies the two.
So the first
Beautifully
movie is
structured
about the arrest of Rudolf Abel, who is a
Right.
spy. This great bravura opening sequence where he's getting a little thingy from a coin.
I'm
You
talking
know,
about,
he's
like-
painting.
Like Spielberg grabbing you from the opening shot. It's like a close-up of Rudolf Abel, right? The camera pulls out a little bit. You see it's his reflection in a mirror. He's looking at himself in a mirror, right?
Mhm.
Okay, obvious symbolism, but it's like, this is a movie that's going to be dealing with identity,
Uh-huh.
and the unknowable nature of who this guy is and what side he's on and what rights he deserves and all of that. And then we pull out a little bit further, track back, and we see that he's painting himself. So within this one frame, you have like his actual head, his reflection in the mirror, and the painting of himself.
Sure.
And it's just like, it's beautiful.
Right.
It's a beautiful stage setting.
Yep.
And now you see the sort of process of him picking up
How
the
he picks up
phone.
yeah.
No one responds. That tells you everything as he stands there. This is such a fucking, this is a performance where this dude's acting with every fiber of his being.
Mhm.
Like every single micro gesture, every muscle tells you something about this character who is very enigmatic, right? And
Right.
unknowable. And then you see this awesome process shit of him cutting open the coin, taking the thing out. He
Looking
goes
at
out,
the numbers.
right? Goes outside, brings his little easel, goes and paints, and you start to see people following. And you're
Dominic Lombardozzi from
Sure.
The Wire
not sure,
plays the lead agent.
sure,
There's a bunch of other guys.
but you're not hearing them go like, "That's him, this and that."
No, they do kind of start running around when they know he can't.
It's a lot of looks and it's a lot of quiet, reasonably paced walking, and then he sort of notices them on the subway and he loses them. And you're watching and you're like, does this guy know what's going on? Is he smarter than he looks or is he dumber than he looks?
Sure.
Gets back to his house and they burst in.
Yeah, and they take him. They're calling him the Colonel. He's very calm.
Weirdly calm
He does do one clever thing, though. He wants to wipe the paint off his easel.
because otherwise it'll dry up. And in the
Off his
process,
palette, sorry.
yes, off his palette, in the process, he muddies up the secret piece of paper that was inside the coin.
Good job, Rudolph. That is the only... Honestly, it's like the only sort of... not even clever is not the word, cunning thing that we see him do.
Sure.
Apart from that, he's all, it's all tightly wrapped away.
Yeah.
Like we don't see
No.
whatever motivates him to be a Soviet spy. We don't learn much about his history.
Which I love.
We learn like a smidgen. We hear one story from his childhood, but and he's arrested. He's a Soviet spy. The real Rudolf Abel was not considered like a major spy, but they did get him, so they had him, and it's a big deal.
Spielberg fades to black and then fades back into the face of Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
And from the first frame, you just go like, okay, Hanks has officially entered a new phase of his career. I'm not saying this was the beginning of that phase.
Yeah.
But this is sort of like when it really started achieving like cruising altitude, which is Tom Hanks is like fucking Spencer Tracy,
Absolutely.
He's
Spencer
like-
Tracy's a good analog for what he's
Yes.
doing here. Yes.
He's making films with American masters mostly. He's let himself age more than most actors do. He has no illusions about trying to seem cool or hip,
Right.
which in a way makes him cool or hip.
Yeah.
Hanks has become a bit of a lower level Bill Murray type hipster icon.
Yeah.
People love his tweets and shit. But it's also just that he's America's dad, and he has no shame about that. He makes dad jokes and shit like that. But also, he's jowly now,
Mm-hmm.
He looks funny, but he looks like an adult.
Yeah.
And it's just, I was talking about this with Richard Lawson, good friend of the show, past and future guest.
Sure.
About, like, this has become my new favorite, like, genre of movies I look forward to every year, which is, like, Tom Hanks
Yeah.
working with a classicist, making a movie about someone who's really good at their job. Movies that are odes to American
So
professionalism.
we're talking about Sully,
Yes.
obviously.
Yeah, I would even, it's not obviously an American master, but I really like Hologram for the King, which I think was kind of underrated. 2016
But
film.
that's not a movie about competence in the same way, is it? Because that's more a movie about a middle-age crisis, right?
Yeah, it's got more things going on than that. I mean, it was sold mostly as a middle-age crisis. I think it also does end up being about him being good at his job in the midst of a breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
Captain Phillips, I fall into that category.
Captain Phillips for sure.
More of
although
a thriller, but it's also about him managing that situation so well and just being a real blue-collar...
Inferno, obviously.
Right, yeah.
I mean, that's about a guy who knows how to deal with an inferno.
I mean, no one's better at their job than Robert Langdon. Name one person who's better at their job than Robert Langdon.
Robert Langdon. Isn't Inferno about, like, Robert Langdon, like, wakes up out of a coma and they're like, you are a criminal! Like, he's been, like, framed.
There's video footage of Robert Langdon stealing the kind of artifact he usually protects.
Yeah, like, he, like, stole the Mona Lisa by mistake or whatever.
Right.
Good stuff.
Yeah, he came on the...
Yeah, he jacked off onto the... Man, the only thing he's got next year is that fucking James Ponsoldt movie, The Circle. It looks like a piece of poop.
Well, where he's playing, like, Steve Jobs.
Yeah, where he's playing Larry Page. Yeah.
That's the only thing he's got next year?
Well, I'm looking at Wikipedia.
I hope he
That's
throws something else on the schedule.
Yeah, let's get some Hanks. Let's get some more Hanksy.
The thing...
The disrespect the Academy Awards showed him with Sully, and showed Sully in general, but especially showed him in a weak year for Oscar.
Yup.
I mean, look, I love Viggo Mortensen as an actor. I did not like Captain Fantastic at all. He's pretty good in it. He's always good. I'm happy for him to get another nomination. Like, no beef.
Yeah.
But that you're giving that an Oscar nomination and ignoring Hanks and Sully.
It's also weird that Hanks, who was known as Mr. Oscar forever and is literally, like, on the board of governors for the Academy...
But it's the same thing that
has
they
now
do to
become-
Spielberg.
Yes.
Because they nominated this movie for a bunch. They didn't nominate Spielberg
They
for Best
take him for
Director.
granted.
Because, I think, and I don't even hate the argument of, like, look, we gave you the trophies.
Yeah.
What do you need from us? Like, yeah, congrats. We're going to leave you off so Larry Abrahamson can get a nomination.
But that's the thing. It feels fucking contrarian.
I agree.
To, like, yes.
agree. I'm just saying, like, that's...
Hanks-
the only other thing
yes.
in his is Toy Story 4.
Yeah. Hanks should have been nominated for Phillips, should have been nominated for Bridge of Spies, should have been nominated for Sully. The fact that he was nominated for none of those is egregious.
True.
And
Is his last nomination Castaway? Is that the last
Correct.
one? Is that really true?
which is insane, which was 2000. His last nomination was 17 years ago.
That's nuts. That's nuts.
Or I guess 16 years ago because the nominations were announced in
Oh,
2001.
oh,
Whatever. Who fucking gives a
please.
shit?
Please, will you just look at yourself in the mirror?
I do, and I don't like what I see.
Yeah, Castaway.
The thing that Richard Lawson and I talk about, though, is that there's the metatextual element to Hanks has become just so fucking good at his job of being a movie star.
Yeah.
That watching these movies is watching someone who's really good at their job play someone who's really good at their job.
Not untrue.
And the key to it is, I think, Hanks, who has always been an excellent actor, right? Has gone through different phases of career, but has always been an excellent actor.
Yes, he has.
Used to have more sort of tricks. And I don't use that in a dismissive way. Most movie stars have tricks. They have their moves that people see, and it makes them feel comfortable. They know that's the thing that actor does, you know?
Yeah.
This type of vocal pattern, this type of face, this type of emotional beat, that's what they're good for, that's what they're known for, all of that, right?
Yeah.
Hanks, I think, has become just one of the most effortless seeming
He's a very effortless actor.
actors
That is a
without
good
any
call.
real tricks or handles.
Starting with, like, after Castaway.
Yeah.
Castaway is loaded with tricks, obviously. Great performance.
Well, in 2004, that doubleheader's tricky as shit.
Well, what's the 2004?
Or the triple header. The
Oh,
fucking
you mean Lady
Terminal
Killers.
Lady Killers, Polar Express. Is
That's true.
super tricky, Hanks.
That's true.
He starts going back and forth between the tricky shit,
Yeah.
but then like he really I think hits like this decade, 2010.
Okay.
He starts just becoming this very pure, simple, effortless actor.
Well, okay, and we're not obeying our rule, which was to get through the first
I
half
know.
quickly.
So let's get
Hanks, as you say with Tracy, he's playing this like, this like shard of conscience that America cannot remove. You know,
Yes.
so it's like Abel goes on trial. Hanks is this like respected lawyer, respected insurance lawyer who worked at the Nuremberg trials. James Donovan.
Yeah.
Not Jeffrey Donovan. That's an actor.
Sure.
Who is picked like, look, the guy needs a lawyer. Will you do your duty and just represent him in court?
Someone needs to. We need to maintain
this
the illusion.
This is America.
Right.
This is a Soviet spy. We're gonna be better than the Soviet Union. We're gonna give this guy a real day in court. Then, of course, Donovan decides to put his back into it. Takes a bit of a
yes.
shine to Abel,
Yes.
right?
Well, and yes, this is what's great about it. I mean, his opening
Would you say
scene,
that Abel gets a shine box out?
Yeah.
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 Like Billy Bats?
Yeah, he tells him, go get your fucking shine box,
Yeah.
and he goes, gladly.
Yeah,
For this
he does.
guy,
For this guy, I'll do it.
gladly.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Not like this.
Have you seen that clip, that video where every time the lightsabers hit, it's just Palpatine saying "do it"?
Yeah. Do you watch Baskets, the Galifianakis show?
Yeah, I've seen Baskets.
Have you seen the beginning of season 2, which will
No.
be like 7 months old by the time this
I
episode
have
comes
not.
out?
I have not.
He joins up with a bunch of vagrants, like homeless people who live under the bridge and have their own sort of like traveling circus routine busking,
Cool.
and all of them have names of the Nebuchadnezzar crew.
Wait, really?
It's never called out.
Wait, really?
I think it's the funniest
They're
bit.
called like APOC and Switch?
Morpheus, APOC, Tank, Trinity. I don't think there's a switch, but there are 5 of them. It's such a good bit.
I gotta catch up.
Like
with
they go like,
Baskets.
"This is Morpheus.
Talk about
He's
a
our
show
leader."
that
Yeah.
people were just like, forget it. We're not going to talk about it.
It's so good.
It is good. It's
It's
really
so
good.
Also,
It's just tough. It's just tough to watch
It's
like
tough.
a couple of those.
one of
you
the
know?
coolest things the Emmys has ever done was giving the award to
Louis Anderson, yeah.
which on paper sounds like a stunt thing, but you watch that performance, and that's a very specific,
Extremely
very
good
understated,
performance.
weird
All right.
performance.
Okay, Bridge of Spies.
Okay, Bridge of Spies. The opening scene is so fucking good. This is fucking screenwriting. Examine it. The scene where he's talking with the guy, he's an insurance lawyer. That's all he does.
Yeah.
And he's explained that his client, who started a 10-car crash pileup, right? Not pileup, but a 10-car crash.
His client who it's knocked over 5 motorcyclists.
Okay,
That's what Hanks's client did.
right,
And he's saying this guy did one thing.
right. The guy goes, your
It's
client did
an
5 things.
accident.
And he goes, if you get a strike, 10
In
things didn't
bowling,
happen, one
right,
thing happened.
Right. And the guy's like, excuse me, I'm representing 5 aggrieved people.
Right, and he's like,
Each of which had a bad thing happen to them.
right, and he says, your guy, and Tom Hanks goes, not my guy.
Not my guy.
Not my guy.
Yeah.
And it tells you, like, everything about this character is set up here. What's his thing? Whatever case he's on, he's going to take seriously. He knows the law inside and out, right?
Okay.
But it's very clear that he's a lawyer for hire. He doesn't respect his guy. That's the differentiation, you know? Not my guy,
But what does he respect, Griffin?
the law.
The rule book.
Yes. Loves the
Rule
rule book.
He loves the
And
rule
so
book.
they give him this case, and they go, look, represent this guy. Don't do too good of a job, but do a
They
good
don't
enough
even
job.
say that. They just say, just give him his day in court.
It's kind of inferred.
Hanks immediately is like, hey, I need more time for this case because, you've got a mountain of evidence here. And the judge, played by Dakin Matthews, who's in Lincoln.
So good in this.
Extremely good in this. He's good in Lincoln too, but he's really good in this.
Also gives an amazing, tiny supporting performance in True Grit.
Oh, he's fantastic in True Grit.
He's the guy who
what
tells
a
her.
great movie.
Yeah, he's the guy who tells her to go to Rooster Cogburn, and he has that series of lines where he's describing Rooster Cogburn.
Dakin Matthews has this great sing-songy voice.
Yeah.
He's got this sort of English accent, like quasi-English accent to his voice, and there's something just judgmental about everything he says. There's something like perfectly judgmental.
Well, there's the moment in True Grit where he's recommending Rooster Cogburn to her, and he takes a deep pause and he goes, "He likes to pull the cork." And it's just like in his tone, you know everything about like he tried to find the simplest.
Right.
Least aggressive way to say that
say
he's
this
a fucking drunk.
to a 14-year-old.
Right. He likes to pull the cork. Yeah.
Love Dakin. Love him. He's in
Yeah.
Gilmore Girls. He's great.
But everyone keeps on going like, okay, congratulations, good job. You've shown us that you're giving
you're
him,
a lawyer.
quote
We
unquote,
get it.
a fair trial.
And it's just they are pushing the envelope, maybe not quite as extremely as like a country that would do a show trial, but still, where they're just like, get the fuck out of here. Like the judge is essentially saying, like, will you get out of here so I can like convict this man?
Right. And to him, it's like, what's different about this guy from a dude who caused a motorcycle accident? Like, I don't personally like that guy either.
Yeah.
But I'm an insurance lawyer. He's covered by our insurance policy. I have to find out the way to best defend him.
Uh-huh.
Okay, they don't have a search warrant for the apartment.
Yeah,
so now
he's
all the evidence
complaining
is
about the
thrown out.
warrant. You
Right.
can't have this. Like, the warrant doesn't apply here because it's not his. And the judge is like, huh? Like, no, shut up.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, what? We got it. He's a spy. Did you hear that this guy's a Soviet spy?
Now, I know we're moving fast because there's a lot of movie to cover, but let's take a step back and go to the first Abel Donovan scene.
Well, that's a very important scene because it's where Abel's getting out of Scheinbach, or is telling Hanks to get out of Scheinbach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because Abel himself has a real guard up. He's,
Right.
a spy, and
He's been interrogated, so obviously he's closed off,
What is kind of inferred through the movie is this is a man who did what he needed to do to survive. And more than that, keep his family safe.
Yeah.
Right? He doesn't seem to, much like Donovan,
yeah.
I think he's just a man who's good at his job. He doesn't personally care about advancing the Russian cause.
Yeah.
But he has a Russian wife, and it's trying times, and he does what he needs to do. So he just kind of has this guard up.
Maybe. I don't know. That's not quite. But anyway, carry on.
It doesn't feel like he has a political investment in it.
Mm-hmm.
But the movie exists in a gray area. You don't know.
Yeah.
Right? These things are kind of inferred. And so he's just got this thing where it's like, look, I know what you're going to do. You're going to fucking rake me over the coals. And Donovan goes out of his way to explain, like, I work for you. I don't work for the government. All this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And Rylance is kind of testing him and says, like, can I get some stuff to draw with? And he goes, like, no, I can't give you stuff to draw with.
Right.
And Rylance says if one of your American spies...
You'd want them treated well.
Right. Now, this feels like Rylance trying to game him a little bit, right?
Sure.
I mean, he's trying to, use
Let's
this
call
to
him
his
Sir
advantage.
Mark Rylance.
Sir Mark Rylance. Yeah. But this kind of hits Hanks, where he just realizes in that moment, right, this is a guy who's good at his job.
Sure.
And he respects that. And,
And this is a movie that's coming out while, debate is still raging over Guantanamo Bay.
Yes.
Still raging over how we treat enemy combatants.
Mm-hmm.
Still raging over our general treatment of, people we arrest who are not citizens of this country.
And just recently, our president is promoting torture. So continue.
Swear to God.
I mean, that's the element of this movie that made me want to cry over and over.
It's
again.
It's just, you see this movie, it's like, what a refreshing representation of patriotism.
Yeah.
And it's not, but then at the same time, it's not like the movie is sweet, is glazing over the fact that, in the 50s and 60s, we were up to all kinds of, dodgy shit.
Okay.
And we were messing with the Constitution, left and right.
And I also love that, and it's similar to Lincoln in this respect, the reason he's doing this is because he takes his job seriously.
Yeah.
It's not that he's, Martin Luther King.
Right, he doesn't come
not,
in here being like, I want to make sure this guy has, he's not an idealist.
Because that's another thing that he keeps saying in the movie. Every person matters.
Every person matters, and he just wants to get home and get in bed.
Right. Oh, my
okay,
God.
so
the
all
fucking
right.
bath.
So he and Abel, look, he gets the shine box out.
Yeah. And then there are a series of other scenes. You see them talking, and they start to warm up to each other as much as Abel can warm up to anybody.
Yeah.
He starts getting a sense of who Abel is, seeing that he is deep down a decent man. And, but it still mostly is professionalism. We're both just smiling talking about this movie. This movie's so lovely.
And then,
Standing man.
No. Well, Abel's sentenced. Hanks goes to Judge Matthews, and pleads hey, don't execute this guy, you might need a chip, essentially, for when one of our guys gets captured. That's his, like, pragmatic argument here.
Right.
And the movie doesn't, like, have some scene with him and Amy Ryan, you know, who plays his wife in a somewhat thankless role. Where he's like, I really like this guy, you know, like, but you get it, you know, you get that maybe he's right when he says, like, I mean, of course he's right, and he turns out to be absolutely right, but you know that he also kind of just likes the guy.
Yeah, but we're introduced.
I mean, he's his lawyer. Yeah. Lawyers are supposed to make it that you don't get electrocuted. Right. Like, you know, that's part of their job.
That's his job. And he takes the law very seriously. Mm-hmm. And I think it's the first scene with Amy Ryan, which is the dinner conversation. So he's Billy Magnuson, who's really good in the first 30 minutes.
Billy Magnuson, who is going to hit at some point.
At some point.
Already a great stage actor. Great in Into the Woods. Like, you know, he's been
really great in The Meddler.
Really good in he's been popping up.
Yes.
What else has he been in? Now I want to look.
He played Kato Kalin in People vs. O.J. Simpson.
And great in The Big Short for a couple scenes.
Oh, right. Yes.
With Max Greenfield.
Schmidt.
Just a great young actor.
He's an incredibly handsome actor with a character actor's range.
He's sticking it to Hanks Jr. He's sticking it to daughter Hanks.
Which I love the way they fucking deal with it.
I love the way they deal with it. They don't acknowledge it publicly, ever. Not even at the end, like Hanks gets home and Billy Magnuson is like, I'm going to... But you know that Hanks figures it out, right?
Yes.
When he says my associate.
Yeah.
Like 2 hours into the movie. Do you know what I'm talking about,
yes,
right?
Yes,
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So Billy Magnuson is Hanks's junior, like, buddy, you know.
Overeager, tripping over his feet. Yeah.
And he makes him, you know, he has a little fun with him and makes it
goes,
it's like,
you got to go over
you can stay late tonight, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, I had a date. And Hanks is like, you can stay late, right? And he's like, yeah, no, of course I can stay late, right?
Then it cuts to Hanks.
Hanks gets home.
And he starts talking about, hey, they want me to take this case.
I love how we're just calling him Hanks.
I know. He wants me to take this case, and they go, are you going to do it? And he goes, well, I'm not sure. I'm weighing over it. This is before he's met the guy. So he's got no shine yet, right? And he's just in love with the legal process. And he starts explaining to him, like, every person deserves a fair trial. And he goes, what if they're not American? He goes, what are the principles of this country? You know, he's going on about all this stuff. And then a beautiful, beautiful fucking Spielberg setup, right? Where it's like gesture, minimal, you know, like a bare minimum of shots explains the entire dynamic where Billy Magnuson walks in, right?
Sure.
Carrying a bunch of files.
Sure.
It is a close-up of...
And we've already established the girl got stood up. The daughter got stood up.
Go, what are you doing home tonight?
She got stood up. Like, she's got her hair in curlers, maybe, or something. I can't remember. Like, maybe not, but, like, yeah.
And let's also mention the daughter is Bono Jr.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Houston,
she
who's
is
Bono's daughter.
Adorable.
Yes, she is. In the name of
Eve. She's in the Nick.
Yeah,
that's what I know her from.
Yeah.
She plays the nurse. Yeah, there's only one nurse in the Nick.
one. I thought the show was called The Nurse. It's called The Nick?
It's called
The
Nick.
Okay. Not to be confused with The Mick, a title that should not be on network television today.
Boy, oh boy.
Why? What's wrong with that?
Okay, well, apart from the fact that it's a racial slur,
yeah.
They've enjoyed the someone got slipped a Mickey or whatever. Like, you know, they've been doing that a lot in the taglines. It's like, no.
Yeah,
hey, I'm Irish, so I could say this, but I heard the working title was The Donkey.
Okay, great.
I laughed.
5 comedy points. Economy of fucking storytelling, right? What are you doing home? I got stood up. Well, whoever that stood you up is an idiot, right?
I believe, what's the word? He uses a great word.
Yes, he does. And I'm butchering it.
You are. And then, of course, Magnuson comes in.
Okay, and here's
her face.
Here's the setup. It's a close-up of her. You see in the background the door open. She looks over her shoulder to see who it is, catches him just out of the corner of her eye, and the second she notices it's him, snaps back to position.
Yeah.
And they hold on her facial expression, and it tells you fucking everything. There's no discussion.
Hanks doesn't clock it. It seems like he doesn't clock it in this moment.
Billy Magnuson doesn't. There isn't a close-up where he mouths, I'm sorry to her.
Right.
He doesn't put paprika on the sandwich.
There's no paprika on this sandwich, and I'm glad you're using that, because, you know, you were skeptical when I used that in the Split episode.
But now I like it. It's good
it.
shorthand.
Yeah, exactly.
It shortens my rants significantly if I have a term I can use.
Too much paprika on the sandwich in some movies. Not Stevie Spielberg. Mm-hmm. He takes it out of the spice rack. Just a sprinkle back in the rack.
And it's also...
Sorry that I yelled that so loud.
We're back in the Spielberg rack.
Is that what the paprika sings?
Yeah.
Remember when paprika was a character on Blue's Clues?
Yes.
When Salt and Pepper had paprika as a child.
That episode blew my mind.
Crazy.
It was crazy. Spice is fucking? Are you kidding me?
That is weird. But then, way later in the movie, and I just want to get this over
Yes.
with, Hanks is recalling something about who is it? Someone's the same age as Billy
Powers,
Magnuson's
not
character.
Powers. I'm sorry, the student.
Yeah,
Pryor.
Frederick Pryor
Yes.
is 25 years old,
Yes.
and Hanks goes like, same age as what is I don't even know Magnuson's Doug.
Yeah.
And the CIA guy's like, who? And he sort of stops and he's just like, my associate. And you get that Hanks is like, oh, I get who this kid is to me. You know, like I
Yes.
get what this kid could be my future son-in-law.
Yes.
That's when he realizes
Yeah.
it.
There's another parallel with the German kid as well.
We're talking
German
about
kid? Wait, which German kid?
The German kid who is working at the offices
yes,
for the West
yes, Ben,
Berlin government.
Yes, absolutely. I'm
Who
sorry, I
is-
was dismissing.
Who is
it.
that actor?
So good.
He's great.
He's in
so good.
another thing. I know that guy. I know that man. I know this man. All right, keep talking, guys.
What I like about the way that this is used is it's just another color on the palette.
Yeah.
You know, this is a movie that feels very expansive in just that every character is a person. Every person matters. Every life is valid, and there's so much happening around it. But keeps the story very focused, all considering, right?
Sure.
But it just feels like the boundaries of this film, much like something like Star Wars, you know, where we talk about the thing that makes Star Wars so great is that all these little things happening in the background, all these characters seem to have these backstories. To have a drama, you know, that takes place in the real world,
Yes.
where its humanism feels that broad,
Mm-hmm.
is
Totally. I'm
exciting.
with you 100% of the way. I'm really just trying to figure out who this fucking German kid is.
Okay.
So
So that's all set up.
that all happens. Abel dodges the electric chair.
Well, he goes to him.
some controversy. I already said that.
No, but there's the standing man scene happens right after this.
Oh, and then yes.
Before they decide that
Before
he's
the
not going to the
sentencing,
lecture.
yeah.
He goes, I think we have grounds for a mistrial. And Abel kind of just like,
He's
smiles at
Abel
him.
gets it more than Hanks does,
Right.
more than Donovan does.
Abel's
Which he's like,
why the fuck
are
are
you
fighting
kidding
for
me?
me?
Like, yeah, this is crazy. I'm going to jail.
And he gives this incredible monologue. That's probably what wins him the Oscar, right? I mean, this is
This
his Oscar speech.
Is his Oscar speech.
The whole performance is
I mean,
immaculate.
Yeah,
but
sure.
this is his Oscar speech, where
Sure.
he gives the speech about, you remind me of someone. There's this man who used to come over for dinner a lot. My parents would say, look at this man. This is an extraordinary man. I never
Watch
saw him
this
do.
man.
Watch this man. I never
Watch
saw him
this
do
man."
anything extraordinary.
Right.
And Hanks goes like, oh, thanks for the compliment.
Right.
He goes, and then one day they come over, they start beating, you know?
Yeah.
They throw my parents on the ground, they throw him down on the ground, they beat him, and he gets back up.
Right.
And they beat him even harder, and he still gets back up. And eventually they stop and they leave.
And
And I think it was because he kept standing.
right. Strike a music.
Comes stricken music, it means standing man.
It roughly means standing man.
And the Thomas Newman music swells.
Which I think we've argued about this before. I
Yeah.
think the score is pretty Newman by the numbers. I don't think it's a particularly good score.
I think
Williams didn't do it because
Sure.
it's the first time Williams hadn't worked with Spielberg in so
He was having
long.
health problems.
No, it's because he was maybe, but I mean he was also busy with Star Wars.
I believe he was having health problems, and because of that, he only had time to do Star Wars.
I mean Williams is slower than he used to be.
Yes.
I think.
I think this soundtrack is a fucking jam.
It's okay.
It's fuck music for me. I light a candle. I put on Bridge of Spies.
By the way, I'm so glad I looked up who the German secretary boy is. Max Moff. He's insensate, people. He's Felix. He's the little rat face guy who's buddy with Dick Boy.
Oh.
Remember, he's the friend of Dick Boy. He gets shot.
Yes.
He's in like every episode.
Yes, he is. He was great on it. He should have shown his dick. Then we would have remembered
Yeah, should
him.
have gotten that dick out
Should
too.
have gotten that dick out. Should have slipped the dick out.
I'm getting a phone call.
Romley's calling me. I'll pick up later.
What's up with
What if I
Ron?
answered on the podcast?
I mean, that'd be kind of like a lame gimmick.
Right, I don't think that's worth doing. So the Newman score swells, and the camera pushes in on Hanks,
Sure.
and we get this is when the movie's really starting to frame him as an everyday hero.
Right. Sure.
So he's made this plea to Deacon Matthews,
Mm-hmm.
and in a very
It works.
controversial ruling, it works, and people flip the fuck out. They're
Right.
screaming in court. They're throwing shit.
Right.
And it says to Alda, like, I think, he's still trying to work it and says we can get this overturned.
Sure.
And Alan Alda, who we haven't talked about yet, but plays his boss, the guy who assigns him the thing, and really
Right.
only has like 3 scenes.
Yeah.
But, always a welcome presence in a film. Alan
I don't
Alda
disagree.
says, like, what the fuck are you doing,
Yeah.
Hanks? He calls him Hanks, which is weird.
It is
But
weird
they
that
kept
he
that
does
take
that.
in.
Yeah.
And he's like, tell me right now that there aren't grounds to overturn the ruling. And if
Right.
you tell me that, I'll drop it right now. And he's like, that's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But what's the fucking end game here?
Right. What's the point here?
Every person matters. It's the end game. He doesn't say that.
And the rules.
And the rules.
At this point, Hanks has been followed by the CIA.
Oh,
he confronts the CIA agent who is
Matthew
played
Shepard?
in a fantastic performance.
Yeah. That's his name, right? Something Shepard.
I'm just double checking.
Yes. I might be getting his first name wrong.
He's a great stage actor. A lot of good stage actors in
He's
this
from
movie.
the elevator service.
That's right.
Right?
Scott Shepard is
Scott
his name.
Shepard, sorry.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't Matthew.
Matt Shepard is
the elevator repair
Yeah.
service theater company.
right.
He says to him, and the guy is essentially saying to him, like, why the fuck do you care about this guy? He's a Soviet spy. And Hanks is like, you're German, right? Like German
your name,
extraction.
yes.
I'm Irish. Mother and father, both parents. I like how he says that. He says mother and father, both parents, as if we don't.
The language is so good in this movie.
It is. And he's like, what makes us Americans, though, is the rules, is the Constitution. That's what makes us Americans. Look, I don't care if you think this is schmaltzy. It's not schmaltzy.
It's inspirational.
Because the whole point
it's genuinely
is,
inspirational, not like a dog's purpose inspirational.
Exactly, because the whole point is he doesn't triumph per se. He wins a small battle in a large war.
It's what it's emblematic of.
Exactly.
It's what it represents, what he represents, which is the idea of that's what America was founded to be. Right?
Yes.
Welcome all comers. Take them in. Try to treat those with the respect that you would want to be treated with.
Yes.
So now on this thread of conversation, I'm so excited. I hope that we can finally get to when he is in Germany and East Berlin.
Hey, Ben, are you trying to move us along?
Yes. Yes,
Okay,
I am.
all right.
But I'm just saying is the relationship between Hanks and then the German official that he meets with.
Dude.
It's so
Dude.
amazing.
Okay, so let me just bridge the gap. Let me bridge the gap, pun intended. They send Rylance to jail.
Rylance goes to jail, and we've been seeing concurrently these sort of brief scenes of Gary Powers and Jesse Plemons as
Yes.
well. You know, like these American soldiers pilots being selected to fly U-2 spy missions. Spy planes.
Their plane's called the Article. It has highly powerful cameras, and they're going to fly over territory and try to get photos.
Some good shit from Michael Gaston as their boss. I love that actor. He's always good.
Some bad shit from Gaston from Beauty and the Beast, who in general is a fuckboy.
But he's
Not
good,
in this movie,
not
but I'm
good
just saying
character,
he
though.
does
Good
bad
character,
stuff.
though. Love
Good
Gaston.
character.
No one fights like this.
But he does bad stuff. That is true. No one does fight
Austin
like this.
Stowell is Francis Gary Powers, who's like one of those, I don't even know that actor, but like one of those things Spielberg obviously is just like perfect. You got the look.
The right attitude.
He's in Dolphin Tale.
And you see all this sort of briefing of like, they give him the dollar. Do not be afraid to use the dollar. To spend the dollar.
To kill yourself if
Right.
you get captured. Wait,
Right.
Anyway, so
you're-
this is brief. He gets captured. Francis Gary Powers shot down over enemy lines.
He doesn't kill himself.
Doesn't kill himself. He's put on show trial you see it like a brief, very cool shot of the show trial where like the camera zooms out and like there's the Soviet
and
banners.
it's this canted low angle. It all looks surreal.
Everyone stands at the same time when the verdict is read, and so it's basically like they've got one of our guys now.
Right. And
The scenario he predicted has come to pass.
The sequence of Powers getting shot down is just a good Spielberg action sequence.
Fantastic Spielberg action sequence where there's like all he's trying to do is blow up the plane. Like and that he turns that into that was like 40% of the trailer.
Right.
Because they try to make the trailer basically like a pilot like getting shot over enemy lines.
And
movie.
they play like basic trailer thriller music over that. But I also feel like I like the way I've seen the movie 4 times now, and every time I read the scene differently as to whether Powers just doesn't get the opportunity to kill himself or doesn't have the courage to do it.
Well,
and
no
I think
one knew, right?
That's what's great.
Yeah.
That's what's great about the way they
as
depict
Powers says, much later as we began this podcast with, he says, I didn't tell him anything. And Tom Hanks is like, look, no one's going to believe you, but
doesn't matter.
Whatever you think, buddy.
Doesn't matter. You know what you did. That's
Back in the rack.
That's the other thing about this movie is it's like, doesn't matter what people think about you. It's about knowing that you can live with yourself because you did the right thing.
I wish I'd come up with Back in the Rack at the start of this podcast series, because then for any time Spielberg puts the spice back in the rack, we could use it. It's a great...
Back in the Spielberg rack.
It's a great shorthand.
Yeah.
Just like Too Much Paprika in the Sandwich is great shorthand.
I mean, if nothing else, this miniseries has established 2 great shorthands that we can now apply to any director.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I think some of our next directors, maybe, they don't put the paprika back in the rack. Not so easily.
Oh, I mean...
they do a lot of just emptying the paprika.
Yeah, I would say some of our next directors dump the entire rack into the pot.
Yeah, they never had a rack. They just have a trough.
Right, including the actual rack. rack. The wooden rack is in the pot as well.
All right, so
Okay. And Hanks is
Donovan-
being threatened a lot at this point.
Yeah,
People
which
come,
is-
they shoot up.
that's made up, and I don't like that they include that scene. I think it's too
I think
much.
it works.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But so now government agencies come to him. It's our friend, old poopy diaper himself.
Oh, that's right, Peter McRobbie as Alan Dulles, the director of the CIA.
He goes, here's the deal. And this is like the movie's now at like the hour mark, right?
Yep.
In a 2-hour, 20-minute movie.
Yep.
He goes, here's the deal. Powers have been kidnapped. Looks like you were right.
Peter McRobbie is fantastic in this scene. Because he's got that kind of, oh, well, he's not your guy or our guy, and you're not our guy. You're your guy. But of course you're our guy. And so Hanks keeps being like, where are the lies here? Like, what is my fiction that I'm going to be establishing in this whole negotiation?
But this is also the first scene where Hank says, what about my guy?
What
And he
about my
refers
guy?
to Abel as
Right.
his guy. This is a big emotional turning point,
Fair
right?
point.
And he goes, you got to go over there and negotiate this. Now, here's the problem. I don't know if you know this. Berlin, a little crazy
Little
right now.
dicey. They appear to be building a wall, which is an objectively terrible idea, P.S.
Yeah, for any country to do.
Agreed. The walling off East Berlin. So if you guys don't know, after World War II, Germany was bisected, and there was East and West states, one governed by the Western Hemisphere by the Allies that was capitalist, and the Eastern Germany was very Soviet, and Berlin itself, which was in East Germany, was divided in half as well. And the Berlin airlift would bring in supplies from the West for West Berlin.
You should have said spoilers before that.
True. Spoiler alert. East and West Germany. Spoiler
If you're
alert for
watching
the
any movie that takes
deunification of
place
Germany.
before like the mid 60s,
Sure.
it's a big spoiler.
Hey, don't worry though. The wall does come down.
Bring down
But
the wall.
spoilers, Ben.
Oh shit! Sorry.
That doesn't happen until Bridge of Spies 4.
Spies 4. Yeah.
Hyperbridge.
Hasselhoff. Yeah. Yeah, Hyperbridge. Yeah. Okay, so as Hanks is arriving, the wall is being built.
Right.
And student Frank Powers. No, Jesus. what
No,
the fuck?
Pryor.
Pryor. Frederick Pryor,
He's an American student who's studying.
played by Will Rogers, is an American student who's studying like Soviet capitalism. Soviet economics.
He takes his bike over the wall to retrieve his professor, seems to be his mentor, but
Also
then you
made up.
realize, his young pretty daughter, there's clearly like, this is a father figure, this is a love interest.
I mean, the reason Spielberg lays all the the power scenes
Yeah.
and the Pryor scenes in there is because he wants these to be real people.
Every
The
person
scene
matters.
where Pryor's thesis is seized from him
Yeah.
is just makes you like the guy more, because on the page,
Right.
like to the CIA agents, to Shepard's character, whose name is Agent Hoffman, he's like, fucking this Pryor kid, he's an idiot. He was in East Berlin in the 60s studying like Soviet like what kind of a fucking, it's kind of like how now you hear like, oh, some guy like went to Syria because he thought he could save the world and he got like kidnapped by ISIS, and you're
Right.
like, well, I feel bad for him, but what the hell was he doing over there? You know it's not safe over there right now.
It's like, why that dickhead ride his bike over the wall as they were putting the bricks up? And what's the answer? In the name of love.
Very true.
And also her professor dad.
So
He thinks he's going to be able to get back over, and that he's
Whatever.
the key to
He
getting
gets-
them back because he's American, and it doesn't work.
This is historically fudged. That's not how it actually happened, but it doesn't matter.
So now,
So
the
Hanks
second
is
film
like, oh, this
starts.
kid, we got to deal with this kid as well. And the CIA is like, no, don't worry about that kid. Don't worry about that
Now,
kid. That's
two
a
American
distraction.
kids. Each one is on a different side of the
The
wall.
CIA is like, we want our guy, Powers, who is a military asset, so he might know shit. And you're going to give up Abel, who's their military asset, so they might want him. We can get Pryor later. Pryor's just a student. He's not important to us.
Hanks doesn't like that.
Hanks doesn't like that. And
Every
also,
person matters.
the CIA understands that because East Germany has Pryor rather than the Soviet Union, even though they are connected
Yes.
countries, East Germany's going to try and muscle in, and be like, hey, you want a student? No, hey, check it out.
I'm having so much fun talking
It's
about
a great
this movie.
It's a very good movie.
Yeah.
Good.
So
movie.
now it becomes what you
Movie 2.
have heard are the most Coen affected stretches of the movie.
Yeah, those
a series of
negotiation
backdoor
scenes.
negotiations, which are really great. And he's with all these very unscrutable people.
So Mikhail Gorovoy, who's like this great Russian actor, he's the guy who plays, and one of my favorite characters in the movie, the Soviet,
Yes.
the guy who's like, I'm second secretary of East German, embassy, no big deal. And then like Hanks goes back to Shepard.
Yeah.
He's like, that guy's like the head of the KGB in Germany. Like that guy is not a nobody.
And that guy, he's almost a little too friendly, where you're
Sure.
thrown off by how sociable he seems to be.
Whereas Hanks is like, can we just, let's look.
Yeah.
This is easy. Abel, I've got Abel. You've got, and this is where I was watching with Joanna. Joanna went, whoa,
Yeah.
is what he's like. You've got Powers and you've got Pryor. Abel for them. Perfect, right?
Yeah.
He just sort of drops it in there.
Yeah.
For the two of them.
Yeah, and it goes, no.
No, wait, we only have Powers, and Pryor is he's in East Germany, I have no,
Right.
And also he keeps going like, oh, yours is the impatient plan. Like, why must we rush?
But he's like pouring him a whiskey, and he's being friendly, and he's leaning forward, and it's got a nice sort of vibe to him. On the other side of the wall is Sebastian Koch, who is
Sebastian Koch's
all
a great
business.
actor
Yes.
from The Life of Others, from many other German movies you might have seen. Yeah, who's playing Wolfgang Vogel.
Right, and he's very curt, he's very cold.
Who is, an East German lawyer.
Yes.
Who is curtain cold and is trying essentially to be like a big player in this whole dynamic.
Right.
They're trying to be like, we are a real country. We are the German Democratic
Yes.
Republic. We are negotiating with America, who must take us seriously.
Yes.
We must be a real country if you're negotiating with
Right.
us. And we have a guy to exchange. And Hanks keeps going like, well, I'm just a private citizen. And they're like, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're an American diplomat.
I
That's
don't
what
work
you
for
are.
the country.
Yeah.
I'm just here for my guy. But it becomes my guys.
When you realize that like the tension of the movie is so wrapped up in like these performances that the countries are trying to give,
yeah.
whereas the Soviet Union essentially is like, I mean, yeah, sure, we'll take Abel and he's fine. This is no big deal. And like the Germans are like, this is a very big deal.
Well, and that's the thing. This movie becomes a film. In order for this story to work, it has to do two things. One, every scene has to be
This
perfectly
really
written.
is our Speed Racer,
right?
For Spielberg.
Yeah. One, every scene has to be perfectly written. Two, every performance has to be perfectly measured, right? Because every scene's about leaning forward and going like, God, I can't get a read on this person.
Mm-hmm.
And every syllable, every movement shifting the power dynamics of whether or not he's making progress or not, right?
Right.
Because now you're getting to a lot of just conversations and big comfy chairs.
Great comfy chairs, by the way. And then there is that also, this is the scene I've definitely been told was a Coen scene.
Yeah.
Is the scene where Donovan is like introduced to Abel's family.
Right.
And they are these three like sort of cartoonish like babushkas who are like, oh, we love him. Like, is he safe?
Now, earlier in the movie, when Donovan goes to visit
Right, the whole overture
Abel,
is made from like a letter from quote unquote Abel's wife.
and this is the post-sentencing jail.
Yeah.
He reads the letter and he goes like, this is an imposter.
This is
it's a
not
fake.
even close to my wife.
So Hanks
Yeah.
is already on guard about that.
Right.
And on either side, on one side, they hire the actors where it's like, talk about too much paprika in the sandwich. These people are ham sandwiching fucking like crazy, right?
That's true, yeah.
Then-
It's a honey baked ham.
On the other side, Sebastian Koch mixes up the name of the daughter and the wife.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, both these sides are trying to use the family.
Right.
And Hank starts to worry at this point, like, wait, what do they think of Abel? Because they keep on going like, maybe you've just gotten all the information you need out of him.
Right.
And that's why you're ready to give him back to us. And he
Right.
goes like, I can tell you he was a good soldier. He's not told me anything. And
Right,
he's
because
like,
Hanks is also quietly worried
Yes.
that when he gives Abel back to the Soviet Union, that
Yes.
they'll kill him
because
or
Abel's
they'll
his guy.
imprison him.
Abel's his guy.
All people matter.
Now, we've forgotten the most important thing in this movie, which is he gets to Berlin and suddenly everything's really difficult. He goes, they show him the shitty, like
He's
unheated
in a shitty
apartment.
and meanwhile the CIA are hanging out at the Hilton.
Right. And they go, here, memorize this address, get back to us. He goes, okay, cool. And they went, no, I mean now.
Yeah,
You're not going to be able to take a
burn it.
map
Right.
because then they'll think you're a spy. Like, here's what
Right.
you have to do. And he goes out on the first day to do the negotiations, and some kids mug him for his coat.
Some kids take his coat in a really good scene.
Really good.
Really good scene where there's no threat.
Yes.
There's no subtitling
This
on
movie
the German.
has zero subtitles at
which
any
is
point, right?
Correct.
Beautiful.
Which is great.
Anytime someone's speaking a language, you feel like Donovan where you don't understand
You
what's
feel a
happening.
little, yeah. And Donovan speaks like a little German.
Denka.
Yeah. So what does he get?
He gets a cold.
It's snowing.
He gets a little cold.
He gets cold.
And this is what elevates Hanks' performance, which at this point has just been fucking solid as shit to like a fucking masterclass in acting.
Yeah.
Because Hanks plays the second half of the movie
He's just wearing down.
with a head cold.
Yeah.
And it's so underplayed.
It is.
This is a masterclass in sniffles.
It is.
Yes. Because he doesn't fucking overdo it. And I'm watching scenes, right? And I'm like, as an actor who's not good at managing my own life, right?
Uh-huh.
I'll watch like things I'm in and I'll go like, oh, right, that's that day where I didn't get enough sleep the night before and my eyes look like this, or I'm noticing that my reaction times are slow, right?
Yeah.
And I now look for that in other performances where I'm like, oh, that feels like they maybe were sick that day or they had less time to work on that scene or whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
Some of these scenes, it just feels like, man, Hanks looks shitty. Was he just like out late the night before? And then like 4 to 5 minutes into a dialogue scene, he'll take out a handkerchief and do a little sniffle. And you're like, oh, right. He's just putting a little bit in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of edge. And that's where he just starts saying in all these negotiations, look, I have a cold.
I just want to go home.
I just want to go home and get into bed.
I just want to get into
I'm not
bed.
trying to do anything bigger. I
Right,
don't
'cause
work
they're
for
like,
the government.
Why the rush? And he's
Yeah.
like, look, I appreciate everything we're doing here, but...
I'm just a guy doing his job.
So you have the Soviets who are a little coy, but are essentially like, sure, able for power.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
You got the Germans who are very uptight and are like, not able for powers, able for prior, and not able for powers and prior. Only able for prior.
You're a rug salesman. You're selling two people the same rug. And he goes,
Rock salesman, he says.
Yes.
Rock salesman.
Yes.
And then you have the CIA, Shepard, who are like,
Oh,
why
you know what's
are
weird?
you fucking with prior? Able for powers, great.
I watch the movie with subtitles because, like, especially with rewatching movies, sometimes I like to be able to physically, like, visually look at the language.
Sure.
They
say rock. Or
they
do
subtitled it as rug.
I'm pretty sure it's rock salesman.
See, I think so too. And the previous times I'd seen this movie without subtitles, I thought it was rock. I think maybe whoever just subtitled it did a bad job,
I mean, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
You'll see all kinds of weird
especially with heavy accents.
Or maybe it is rug. I don't know.
I don't know. He's a salesman selling two people the same thing. And it gets back to this point of, no, not two things, one thing.
Yeah.
Both of you are getting the thing you want, and I'm
Right.
getting something from each of you. But this is mutually beneficial to everybody.
Yes.
But he doesn't like the idea that he's becoming a secondary adjunct part of this deal. He wants to be making the deal.
Yeah, no, the whole point is that correctly the East Germans understand that they're being treated like a junior partner.
You give me
There's-
one thing, I give you one thing. Don't have another thing happening in the back.
There are the great scenes with Sebastian Koch, but then there's also the scene with his name is Burghart Klauner or something like Klausner maybe, who is the sort of the higher up in the German Democratic, like the Attorney General.
Yeah.
And that scene where he's just like, no, it's nice, it's good. You want prior, we have prior. He's a young man, good. And
He's
then,
really playing it.
right, and Hanks is like, yeah, no, but the two, and he goes like, no, Like, and then the phone rings, and he picks up a phone, and there's nothing, and then he picks up another phone. It's
So good. This movie's so funny, too.
It is. It's weirdly funny.
With never, like, you know...
No, there's lots of funny little moments, like when Hanks orders the two breakfasts.
Yeah.
He's so hungry.
Yeah.
He wants the two breakfasts at the same time.
And that's where this movie feels really
That's
Coen-y.
kind of I never got that that's a joke about the movie. He's like, I'll have a continental breakfast and the American breakfast. And they're like one after the other. And he's like, at the same time.
Yeah.
Just like Powers and Prior.
Yeah. Yeah, he goes, can you deliver
That
them
just
both to
bumps it up to
checkpoint
5
shortly?
stars.
Yeah.
5.5 stars.
One of the best movies ever made. That breakfast, though.
That
He orders the
breakfast, though.
breakfast. He's so desperate. He's got a cold. He's fucking tired. He's been staying at the shit flop house. And now he's at the Hill team, though he's not supposed to be, because he goes, you know what? I'm fucking tired of this. I'm going to eat a nice breakfast. And then they immediately tell him, like...
Yeah, the CIA come and they're like, oh, great. It'll just be powers for Abel. Great. That means we don't have to even tell you that stupid message we got where it was like the Germans will do it too.
They said they'll do it, but disregard that.
Forget it.
And Hanks immediately goes like, God damn it, I'm not going to eat this breakfast. I have to go.
Hanks is
and
like,
they're
goodbye.
Stay, what? You're not even going to fucking eat this?
Why would you?
Because he's got to do his job.
He's got to do his job.
And so they line it all up, right? One of them, they're going to go to the titular Bridge of Spies.
They're going to go to, they never call it the Bridge of Spies.
I think, but there's a plaque on it that says the Bridge of Spies. It's
No,
weird that it was
it's the
always
Glinky
called
Bridge. No, I don't think so.
that. Doesn't Glinky mean of spies?
Absolutely not.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, it's named after like the Glinky Palace.
Google that. I think I'm right
I
about
literally
this.
Googled it. You are wrong. You are dead wrong.
Okay, well, alternative facts.
Oh boy, you were just doing that. No, they want it to have.
Oh, they actually changed the name.
Oh,
So
that's
now
what it is.
it's
Now it's
called the
called Of
Bridge of
Spies. That's what it
Spies.
is, David. So I was right all along.
Reporters began calling it the Bridge of Spies.
5
and so
fact
that-
points.
Thank you.
5 fact points. So they're like, yeah, let's do it on this secret little bridge over here.
Right.
Not Checkpoint Charlie, which is the main crossing.
So they're
between-
like, yeah, Abel for powers will happen on the bridge. Pryor at Checkpoint Charlie.
right.
So he's a little nervous because he's like, well, we got to take them at their word that they're going to push Pryor over Checkpoint Charlie at the same time that
Right.
we're doing this, but we don't have eyes there. It's pre-FaceTime.
Well, they do have eyes, but they just have to make a telephone call.
It's pre-FaceTime.
They
That's
don't
my
have
point.
the Tim Daly starring TV show Eyes.
Sure.
They don't have it in East Germany.
No, they don't.
It never made it to East Germany because of East Germany's restrictive censorship.
Yes.
They never got to see the TV show Eyes starring Tim Daly. I'm going to work this joke.
And here's the thing.
I'm going to get every cent I can out of this joke.
That's the real tragedy.
It is the real tragedy. That's why the wall eventually came down. They wanted Eyes.
It's weird that they got early edition, though.
They did get early.
Kyle Chandler, do you remember that one where
Yeah,
he'd
of
get...
course, where the cat would bring him tomorrow's paper today.
He'd
Of course
get the
I fucking
newspaper
remember.
early,
You fucking
and so he
kidding
could
me? You think
stop
I don't know about early edition? Has Kyle Chandler been in a Spielberg movie yet? Seems like an obvious choice.
No, he was in Super 8, which is the faux
Yeah,
Spielberg
right,
movie,
right,
the
right.
cover band.
But
No,
that just
he'd be
seems,
great.
That just seems obvious. Get
Yeah,
him in.
maybe
a
he should
Spielberg
play the
movie.
boy in the Pope movie.
Yeah, that's right. He should
Yeah.
play. He should play all the. He should play St. Peter's Basilica.
Yeah, I'm sure they've cast the boy 4 times now by the time this episode comes out.
Yeah. So Eyes. It was on ABC for 4 glorious episodes before it got canceled. So
Uh-huh.
Tim Daly, great.
Yeah.
Great
Early
show.
edition, on the other hand, lasted like 6 seasons.
At least 5.
Yeah.
Oh, good run. So when we should mention that Hanks pushes the Germans over the line by having that little conversation with Felix from Sense8,
Yes.
where he just sits him down. Those great shots. Janusz is, having a blast as usual with his pools of light.
Yeah.
Of the bikes going up and down, delivering the
Right.
mail and delivering the messages.
And the guy goes like, I'm sorry, my boss had to leave. And he goes, I've been waiting here for a fucking hour, and now I can't talk to the guy. And he goes, I'm sorry. And he goes, look, let me explain something to you. And he starts to spiel, and Ratface is immediately like, I should go get a higher up. And he's like, no,
Yes,
I'm
you're
telling
listening
you.
to me. I'm giving you a message, and
Yeah.
you need to deliver this
You need to
message,
deliver this. This
which
is on
is
you.
essentially like, if Pryor doesn't show up, the Soviets are going to know about it.
Yeah.
And they're going to be angry.
Another thing that happens is we see Abel for the first time in like 45
That's
minutes.
the thing. This whole second movie is
Yes.
playing out without Mark Rylance's dynamite work.
Right.
And you'd think you'd miss it, but you don't. Partly because he did such a good job that he looms,
Yes.
like you get why Hanks is working this hard.
Right.
And partly because everyone else is great too, and everyone's doing a great job. It was a professionally made film with lots of great actors.
And there's a ticking clock. I mean, there's so much at stake, but it also
But then
means...
they wake up Abel. But
So
yeah,
you see the quick glimpse of them waking him up, and he's sort of disoriented. He doesn't know what's going on.
Yep.
And then when he gets onto that bridge, God, like the two of them being back together in the same frame talking again, it feels like fucking like watching a band reunite at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know? Like the fact that he's been mostly missing for this hour, and the backbone of this movie has been this weird mutual respect these two men have for each other, just as professionals and family men.
absolutely.
I mean, then...
Stoika Mujik.
Right. So now it's like the tensest shit in the world, and you're watching just like
Great.
a bunch of people on a bridge standing on opposite sides
Right.
waiting
it's
for a
not
phone call.
That tense.
No.
The Soviets show up and they're like, "Here he is, Powers." And Jesse Plemons is there, and he's like, "Oh yeah, sure, that's
Yeah,
Powers."
take
all
off your
right."
hat. Yep, that's him. Yeah.
And Hanks is like, "No. Call Checkpoint Charlie. Is my guy there? This guy I've never met prior. Is he there? No." And so Hanks is like, "We gotta wait. Because we're waiting to see if they're waiting to see if we'll just do the swap anyway."
Right.
The CIA is like, "Get going" to Abel. They're like, "You're free. Go."
Well, this is the third time we've forgotten to mention this at all, but this is the third time they used the "would it help" in the movie, which is you don't seem nervous at all. Would it help?
Would it help?
Yeah, and they say to Abel like, your choice. I mean, who knows what fucking happens if we wait for this prior thing and it goes wrong? You might get fucked over.
Yeah, but Hanks is also saying to Abel, like, what's going to happen to you? And Abel's like, well, sometimes. I mean, his line way earlier that I love. Let me get the exact line because it's so
okay,
good.
so while you're saying that, I'll say the other thing that
Sure, go ahead.
that Donovan says to Abel, which is Abel says like, "What's the deal with this dude?"
Yeah.
What's the
Why do you
situation?
care about this? Right. Why do you care about Pryor?
And Hanks just has this line where he just looks him in the eyes and he goes like, "I really want this guy."
Yeah.
Like it would be great if we could get both of these guys. And Abel sees in him like, okay, he's doing for these two kids what he did for me. I know
Right.
how good a man this is, and he's done so much for
Standing
me.
man.
Right, standing man, Stocha Mujic, where he just decides like Abel's like, I'm in no
I
rush.
can wait.
I can wait.
And
And it's just like, oh my god, these fucking good, nice friends.
Nice
They're the
friends.
two friends. They were the original two
They
friends.
were. They were the original two friends. They were on the Two Friends Bridge.
Yeah.
And then we have to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
But no,
And they locked the gate.
I just love that line. They did lock the gates. I just love that line where earlier it's when Hanks is asking about his Soviet
Yes.
masters. He says, well, the boss isn't always right, but he's always the boss.
Yes.
Which is sort of being repeated here when he says, like, let's see how they greet me.
Boss isn't always right.
Maybe it'll be a hug,
But he's always the boss.
but he's always the boss.
That's what he says. He goes, "What are you worried at all?" Because when he talked to our friend in Germany, the one who said, like, of course you would say that he hasn't told you anything, but we'll have to do a thorough investigation and decide what we do with him, right?
Sure.
Abel says, he says, "Are you worried?" And he goes, "I don't know." And he goes, "How will we know what's going on?" And he
Right.
goes, "If they embrace me or not."
Right.
If they embrace me, I'm probably fine. If they put me in the back of the car without any
Then who
conversation-
knows?
Right.
They do the trade. Pryor shows up. They do the trade.
The most exciting phone call in the history of film.
Great phone call.
And they do the trade, and they put Abel into the back of the car. And there's a looming sense of dread. And Hanks comes home. He's been telling his wife that he's been on a fishing trip the whole time, that he'd pick up something from the corner store.
Yep.
Or he says he's going to pick it up from
He
where
says he's
he's
going to
on
get the
trip.
marmalade in Britain. He just gets a marmalade from around the corner.
Right, and she's like, "Fuck you."
Yeah, Amy Ryan underserved, although what
Yeah.
can you do?
But a
not-
solid actress. I mean,
Yeah, it's just sad to see Academy Award nominee Amy Ryan, the role she gets. It's just too bad.
I agree.
Make a movie for her, Steven Spielberg.
I agree. But
And then, of course,
he
on
just
comes the TV.
right, and so what happens is you see him walking through the door with her, right? And as they're walking in, the kids who are all huddled around the TV go, "Mommy, mommy, look!" And it cuts to the kids' perspective, and it cuts to the TV. So you don't see Amy Ryan and Tom Hanks for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
You see the kids watching, and you see the news coverage, which is announcing successfully negotiated the return of both Powers and Pryor in exchange for Abel, executed by this boss-ass lawyer
Yep.
named fucking Donovan,
Mhm.
right? And the camera spins around to what you assume is going to be the shot of Tom Hanks standing there like a hero. And instead, Amy Ryan is standing mouth agape, and Tom Hanks is nowhere to be
Nowhere
seen.
to be seen. Where did he go? Bed.
She goes upstairs, and Tom Hanks is lying face down,
Yeah.
sound
Could be
asleep
dead.
in the bed. He wasn't being cute. All he wanted
He
to
wanted
do,
to go to bed.
he's not in it to be a hero. Okay? Now, this is obviously where the movie should end.
Yeah. And then just give us the title cards over black. Instead, we see him on the subway. And we see a woman like look up from her paper. There'd been an earlier scene where people were judging him on the subway.
They hate him because he's...
And now she's like, oh, it's
And she
Tom
gives
Hanks.
him a thumbs up.
Or whatever. And he is looking up and he sees kids climbing over fences.
Earlier in the film,
Brooklyn,
he was on a train. He saw
He
kids
sees
trying to
kids
climb
getting
over the wall.
shot.
They get shot.
And it's very shocking. Good scene. That's a good
Yes.
scene.
Yes.
The earlier scene.
He looks
This
forward and
scene-
smiles. The title cards happen over that.
Yeah, I like that he then like just starts reading his paper and the title cards float over his shoulder. But yeah, and point out that Abel lived a boring life in the Soviet
Yeah.
Union, and Donovan became like a very famous negotiator during the Bay of Pigs crisis and other
Right, and they give you that awesome fucking stat where it's like they send him over to negotiate the
like
release
of
of like
1,000 people, and he got
9,000 people, and it's like this
more.
this fucking dude. This fucking dude.
Good
like
dude.
I love true story movies about people
You know-
who aren't well known, and they can give you stats like that at the end and
I-
be like, this guy's even better than you thought he was.
I reviewed this movie. It's a good movie. You can read my review on the Atlantic.
Oh,
But
right.
I talked about how like there's a lot of in this movie about like how we're not different, right?
Yeah.
Like and like that. Maybe that's what Spielberg's laying on a little too thick right here at the end, but that's okay.
But in this age of populism,
Uh-huh.
I mean, come on, guys. So what if there's borders? We're all just people. Why can't we get along? Let's all be
Yes.
friends.
This is an anti-xenophobia movie
Yes.
without politicizing it as such. And I like for a movie that is so mired in politics, it's actually weirdly kind of apolitical. It's a humanist movie.
Right.
That's what it is. Our main characters are never fighting for political causes. They're fighting for basic human decency.
Correct.
It's just a stunningly empathetic movie. And to watch people act on such kindness, on empathy, and decency moved me to tears, to a light misting several times during the watch. It's exactly, people used to eagerly await the next Spielberg movie because he was like our greatest fucking popcorn, like
Yeah.
spectacle filmmaker, right?
Yeah.
And this current mode Spielberg's in, I I will see Ready Player One opening weekend, no question, because it's Spielberg and I'm curious, right?
Sure.
But for me, I wait breathlessly for him to make another movie like this because now more than ever,
Agree.
we need movies like this.
We do.
I need movies that don't take me away from the reality of the world and send me to another fucking dimension. You know, I need movies about how good people can be.
Yes.
Movies that aren't fucking maudlin or saccharine, you know, but are hopeful with an earned hope about hard work and hard decisions.
I got no disagreement with
But
any
just
of
the
this.
fucking just human decency in the face of all that surround us and engulfs us right now.
Yeah.
I love this movie.
I totally agree with you.
I know people flip out about the ending a lot. For me, that's sort of like,
whatever.
that's how I feel about the Lincoln ending, where it really does.
I don't
you know,
care about either.
Right. The Lincoln ending for me is like a stumbling block. For me, I'm like, yeah, of course the movie would be better if it ended over.
Look,
him
we're
lying in
not
bed.
litigating this. Enough.
It's 90
I
seconds.
want to play the box office.
The movie's earned it at that point. Okay.
The movie came out October 16th, 2015.
The best weekend of all time.
Well, it's an interesting weekend. It opened number 3 at the box office with $15 million. It eventually grosses 72 domestic and 165 worldwide. A perfectly respectable, if not incredible, turn
Yes.
in the theaters. Number 1 is a new movie that week, a comedy, a goofy kids comedy with
Hotel Transylvania 2?
no, that is number 5.
Okay. I knew it came
in
out
its
on the same
fourth
Oh, right, because it
week.
came out October. Yeah, okay.
Maybe that was the movie you were seeing the same day as Bridge of Spies.
No, it's not, because I saw that with Ramona, friend of the show. Number 1 is a goofy family comedy. Live action?
Live action with, I guess, some CGI elements. What doesn't have fucking a bunch
Yeah.
of CGI shit in it these days?
But not CGI characters?
I haven't seen it. I think it might. I have no idea. Not really. I don't know. It's a weird movie, and there's going to be a sequel. It was kind of a surprise critical and box office
Goosebumps.
hit. Yes. Goosebumps.
Yeah.
Quiet little hit of 2015.
Yeah, people say it's like surprisingly good.
People say it's pretty good, although I hear the ending is weird.
Yeah,
But anyway.
sure. Goosebumps. Number 1, a sequel just announced. Get ready for that.
What
I'm
a
sure by
world.
the time this episode comes out, I'll have been announced as the villain in Goosebumps.
Congrats.
I'm playing the evil mannequin, not the mannequin, the ventriloquist dummy.
Yeah, you're playing Slappy.
Slappy, thank you. I was searching for that.
Okay, number 2 at the box office is the kind of movie that I can tolerate in the world that we're talking about, which is essentially kind of a big budget genre movie that's just a little more grounded than some of this stuff. It's an original. No, it's an adaptation of a book, but you know, it's a standalone movie. And the one thing I would definitely say about this movie, which has made $143 million in 3 weeks,
Wow.
is that it is funny.
It's really funny.
Famed for its hilarity.
Is it a comedy or is it just a very funny...
Some people thought it was a comedy. 90 members of the Hollywood Foreign Press, for example.
Oh, The Martian. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Let me just laugh for a little bit.
The Martian.
Remember that time they left him on Mars?
The slapstick comedy of
left him
the year.
On Mars.
I rewatched that movie recently. Pretty good movie.
Yeah.
Perfectly funny. It's
Yeah.
about as funny as Bridge of Spies. Like, it's
Yes.
not a comedy.
Yeah.
It's like a race against time drama. Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, Gone Girl is more of a comedy than The Martian.
Yes, it is. Gone Girl is more of a satire, which at least
Yes.
you can call a comedy.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Number 4.
Wait, I just remembered that
They
other
left him in Mars.
scene in Martian where they saved him. Oh, The Martian. I'm sorry. Go on. It's just... Oh, boy. Oh.
Okay. Number
Hey,
3.
remember how he makes
Shut up! Shut up, all of you! God damn it!
He makes fertilizer out of his poo poo.
All right, enough. Okay, number 3, Bridge of Spies.
Number 3, Bridge of Spies. 15.
Number 4, 13 million, an R-rated gothic romance.
Crimson Peak.
Crimson Peak. I probably gave it away there, but
Yeah.
whatever. Not a lot of gothic
Yeah,
romance.
how many? Oh, boy.
Great movie, in my opinion. Sorely underrated. One of my favorite Del Toro movie in a very long time.
That's a half and a half for me.
What does that mean?
I like some of it. I dislike other parts of it.
What don't you like?
This is not an episode for me to get in Crimson Peak.
Why not? Let's do it.
I feel like
I'd like to watch it again. I've only seen it one time.
I think there is a lack of cohesion to all American Del Toro movies.
I'm trying to think. Well, I really like Hellboy 2, but I haven't seen that one in a while.
I think Hellboy.
Honestly, as we've talked about, he'd be a good blank check.
He would. I think Hellboy 2 works because it
I'm not a
owns
huge fan of his.
how
that's the
erratic
problem.
it is. Yeah, I just think his Spanish movies are so much better than the American ones. I think the main Spanish trilogy, the Kronos, Devil's Backbone, Pan's Labyrinth, is like so head and shoulders above all of his American work combined.
They're good. They're good. I was just never into Pan's Labyrinth. I don't know why.
Yeah, I'm excited for this next movie he's got coming out, which is like a
The
Cold
Weight of
War
Water or
monster
whatever?
movie.
Yeah.
But it's
It
not.
always sounds good.
It always
I
sounds
think Crimson Peak's great, though. I think it's one of his best movies.
I like some of it.
You like what now?
Some of it.
Uh-huh. Okay, and then number 5, Hotel Transylvania 2. You've also got Pan.
Yeah. More like panned by the critics.
Indeed.
Oh.
Did I tell you that a year later, I got an email? I think
Yes.
I tweeted it, certainly.
Yes.
But, I got an email a year later.
Literally a full calendar year.
Pretty much. An email that said, just wanted to tell you your review of the movie Pan sucked. Thought you'd like to know. That was the whole email. It was all in the subject line.
Burn the internet.
The Intern is in there.
Which is, I think, an underrated movie.
Pretty rewatchable.
Yeah.
I think it's okay.
I think half of it's okay, and there's like half of that movie that when I'm watching it, I think is a masterpiece. There are individual scenes in that movie where I'm like, this is a great movie, and then it goes to something I think is kind of banal.
What happened to De Niro? Like,
He likes money.
I mean, yeah.
He's like a businessman. He owns a lot of real estate, and he likes doing things like the Tribeca Film Festival and investing in restaurants and buying art and shit like that. And he has more critical acclaim than anyone needs for one lifetime, and he likes getting paid money so he can do the things he really likes doing.
Sicario is in the top 10.
Lovely movie.
Decent movie.
Yeah.
Good-looking movie. Woodlawn. The hell is that?
Oh, that was an inspirational football movie, I believe?
Oh, that's right. Inspirational movie.
Inspirational, quote-unquote.
The Maze Runner, The Scorch Trials, which is probably the last Maze Runner, right? Because it didn't make a ton of money, and they like almost murdered the lead actor.
They have scheduled a new release date for it.
Oh, for the third one?
They stopped filming
Yeah.
like a year ago.
Yeah.
Because their lead actor, Dylan O'Brien, got run over by a truck.
Yeah.
And he has now recovered, started filming on another movie, and they claim when this movie's done, he's going to go back to the next Maze Runner film, and it will be released with like a year and a half long break in the middle of production.
Fantastic.
Weird.
Glad for that.
Sure.
And Steve Jobs, Black Mass, Everest, which I just watched. Everest. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
Bridge of Spies. I fucking love it. If you haven't seen it, see it, goddammit.
Okay.
And if you've seen it, rewatch it again. It's a really, you know what? It's a good movie for the times we live in.
I agree.
It inspires you to be a better person. I certainly
agree with that, too.
I like watched the movie and said, like, how do I actually try to make positive change in this world? You know, aside from the obvious things, our marches, our petitions, our phone calls, our donations, the things that everyone's sort of sharing on Facebook. It's like, what are the moments of kindness and selflessness and empathy for others that I can do on a day-to-day basis?
Agreed.
Even those who you think are your enemies.
Who do you think are your enemies right now? Twitter eggs, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Do you have like a showbiz enemy?
Yeah, I'm trying to think who gets a lot of my parts.
Yeah. Like Colin Jost or someone?
Well, Colin Trevorrow, obviously.
Obviously.
Colin Jost and I aren't going up for the same parts.
I don't know.
Though I did audition for Weekend Update.
Did you?
No. No.
What am I asking that for?
No. I'm trying to think of who the new guy is. There's always, like, at any given point in time, there's, like, per year, there's one guy who gets all the parts that I want, and then the next year it'll be someone different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was Miles Teller for a while,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like Miles Teller and I aren't competing anymore.
No. What's Miles Teller doing with himself now? You know what? We should end this podcast.
Yeah, we should too. The point is, I've handily beaten all my enemies in show business, and everything's good except for the world, which is terrible. Bridge of Spies, great movie, 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10. Would watch again.
World, no good.
This has been our Bridge of Spies episode.
Next week we end
the BFG.
Pod Me If You Cast with the BFG.
No bonus episode for this series because there wasn't
been a lot of
one,
Spielberg.
and it's a lot of Spielberg. But you know, BFG, there's not as much to dig into in that movie, so it probably will contain a lot of the earmarks that you might love of a bonus episode in terms of sort of finality, thesis, rankings, what have you. I don't know.
Exactly. No, we'll do some rankings.
We'll do some rankings. Everyone loves those rankings. Hey, thank y'all for listening. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe.
Just do those things.
Yes. And go to the Reddit.
If you want.
Anything.
Yeah.
Final thoughts, Ben? Anything you want to say? Final notes?
Continue to believe in democracy in our country, guys. I know it's bad. I'm predicting it's going to get worse by the time this comes out, but I hope that we all can continue to hold on to some of our ideals.
Hey, look, he's our finest film critic, but he's also one of our greatest truth tellers.
That's true.
That's not a nickname. It's just a compliment, Ben.
Thanks, man.
You're a good guy. And, and as always, we're back. Back on the Spielberg rack.
We got to use it again.
This has been a UCB comedy production. Check out our other shows on the UCB Comedy Podcast Network.